It's Ball Up Top Podcast. I got my boy Jabari Ghostin with me. It's Brad
Yes, sir.
Guapovich. It's been a rough week for me. Found out my little bro passed away, and that's just been crushing. But basketball helps me distract me from that. So that's why we're here. Let's talk ball. Um,
Yes, sir.
First thing, yeah, he would want me to do this anyway, so that's why we gotta keep doing it. But first thing we got to talk about Kevin Durant. At least the first thing I got to talk about is Kevin Durant and Ja Morant and Zion and Chet all getting hurt. Mostly KD and Chet though really like were bad blows because these are contending teams, or at least right now on the West, they both look like two of the best teams in the West. KD was playing great on both ends, looking like his peak KD efficient self and playing defense, flying around on defense, basically being their best defensive player, besides maybe Ryan Dunn. But like as far as like just over the aggregate, probably KD. And I think that's a crushing blow. But obviously, this is time for Booker to step up, and that's why he's Devin Booker, and he needs to be peak Devin Booker right now. And hopefully, Bradley Beal can stay healthy and take some of that load and pause and playmate, and playmate and shit, and make sure that the team's running and they don't fall too far down the standings. I don't expect them to stay in first place, which they are right now. I think they're eight and
Right.
two. I don't expect that to happen, but I do think that they could, stay like in the top four,
Use
maybe.
that float.
But
Yeah.
but just don't slide. That's it. Just don't slide. But the Chet thing, same deal. But they gave up what 130 points tonight without Chet. The
Yep.
tallest person in the starting lineup is the point guard, SGA. So this his game, SGA tonight with the 45 points. That's gonna be have to be the norm for him going forward without Chet because their defense is not going to be close to as impactful without Chet. And they had the best defense in the NBA. And look how much of a difference that made just by losing that one skinny beanpole out there blocking
Right.
every shot. And he, even though he looks like that's why I always compare him to KG because he doesn't look like he's tough or anything. But do you go in and paint on him, and you're gonna realize real quick that he's gonna send your shit right back at you. Like, or he's a smart defender too. He doesn't just like jump at everything, and he's got amazing timing
Right.
too. So like it's one thing about he's just a great defender and look how much of a difference that makes. But I don't know. What do you think is the biggest loss? Probably KD. But what do you think would be a bigger loss, Chet or KD? Like
I definitely think. I mean, it's. I mean,
that's a
it
tough
probably.
question.
Probably. I mean, I probably say KD just because he is the better player and he does a lot
Right.
for Phoenix. But Chet is also like it's also a pretty big loss as well. Just being your best defender,
All
your
right, yeah.
backline defender, just pretty much the best defender on the team. You are pretty much like the defense.
One of the
And so,
best defenders in the league. He's
oh
probably
yeah.
top five in the league, Chet. So
Yeah, and the KD injury is extremely concerning just because he had the calf strain in the Olympics that kept him out for a while. So I will look out for that. Seeing this is pretty much the second one in 3 months, and considering the Achilles injury that he had in the past as
mhm.
well, is definitely something that needs to be monitored. And
And the more concerning for KD is because he's obviously older, so he doesn't have that
yeah,
many
that's
more
well.
years to waste. And the injury is like you said, it's a thing that happens to him. Whereas Chet, I visually saw him, he just slam on the ground,
Yeah,
and that was one of those injuries that could have happened to literally anybody. It
anybody. Yeah,
wasn't it wasn't like a like a leg injury or ankle or whatever. It wasn't a ligament. It wasn't something that was like his body breaking down.
like an ACL or something like that, or
Right.
MCL.
Exactly. So I say that to say that it was kind of more of a fluke for Chet getting hurt,
Right.
whereas KD, it might be more of a sign or a pattern, which we obviously know he does have a pattern getting hurt. But I think that it's definitely tough on both teams. I think that Shea is probably a little better equipped to carry the load than Booker. I don't know. Booker has looked like and now that I say this, he'll probably go off for like 45 points. But I feel like he's been kind of easing into the season and probably
Right.
just letting KD because KD's been playing so well. And it's hard to. It's just like any other team that has three scorers like that. It's kind of hard to go off for 40 or to really do that because you're not going to get enough touches, enough shots unless you're on fire, and then they just let Booker go. But he's going to have one of those peak Booker stretches, which he's capable of doing. But we'll see.
Right.
Then there's other injuries. Ja's hurt, and he's out for a week. That that sucks. Like I just because we want to see Ja playing and like Jaren Jackson's gonna have to take up a lot of that scoring load, and he can take on those responsibilities probably because he got like when everybody was hurt last year, he got a lot of those responsibilities on his plate, and so he got to like play freely and get a lot of reps. So I think that he'll be ready to score a lot, and they have some good people on the bench, and you can talk about Memphis because you know a lot about Memphis. But
Yeah, I
how
mean,
do you think they're gonna hold up without Ja?
I mean, I think they'll be pretty. I think they'll be fine without Ja. To be honest, it kind of reminds me of the season where they went 20 like into when it was something like that. It was like
Well,
20.
they don't have Bane too, so it's
Yeah,
not
they don't
just
have.
Ja.
Yeah, they don't have Bane as well. But I do like the pieces that they have on the team right now. I mean, they handle. I mean, Portland's a bad team, but I just think that they handled Portland pretty well, and like I think it was like a 134-89 blowout or something like that. And I just like how Scottie Pippen Jr. had the offense moving, and I just like the other pieces that they have around. So I think they'll be able to at least stay afloat until John Bain come back. But they do need those guys for the long run. But I think they'll be fine in the regular season, especially considering with what Jaren's been able to do. I
Yeah,
don't
and they
know.
got a good bench.
Yeah,
I
they got.
mean,
So yeah, I'm not too concerned. Jalen Wells has been good. Has been able to play like
Jalen
real
Wells has been really,
best
really
for
good
them.
for a
So
rookie.
yeah,
Um,
I like what they have right now. So
speaking
it's
of
just
rookies, speaking of
okay.
rookies, my boy Stephon Castle was playing. My prediction for
Yeah,
rookie of the year. He's
he's
been
been
playing
good.
good the last couple of games because I was saying Jalen Wells is one of the rookie of the year candidates, which is funny because it was supposed to be his teammate Zach Edey, but it's been Jalen Wells. To me, that's been the better rookie, and on his team obviously, but even just in the league. But Stephon Castle the last couple of games has really been playing good, and I watched him
Yeah,
tonight, and he looked great. Like when he does get the rock, when they do give it to him and let him play make, he makes stuff happen.
yeah, he
And
does.
I hope that they just let him, because he's like the point guard of the future, in my opinion. In like a year or two, he's going to be that guy for them. So hopefully he keeps getting more reps with the ball in his hand, because he's not really like a knockdown shooter. He's more like a guy that needs the ball in his hand, and he's good
Hmm.
with the ball in his hand. So there's no point in keeping it from him. But obviously CP3 is going to be there dribbling. Well, it's just like the injuries. Oh,
Yeah,
and it sucks because I was talking about the NFL, remember, and I was saying how there's so many injuries in the NFL, and I was comparing it to the NBA. But and then as soon as I said that, now we have all these like slew of injuries,
right.
and it just sucks. It's just bad luck. Zion is not one of those. Like Zion is more of a this ain't bad luck. This is like who Zion
It's
is.
recurring at this point.
Yes, and he's scary. I don't know how you can even trust him, and I think he's losing value. And I think New Orleans is in a bad spot just because all their players keep losing value. All these
Hmm.
players that they should have traded or made deals probably last year or 2 years ago when they had value, and you could have got a lot for them, like Brandon Ingram or even Zion. Now it's like, damn, bro, I don't know what you could even get for these guys. You're
Right.
not going to get a lot of assets. And Brandon Ingram's look good when he's played, but man, New Orleans just got bad luck. But I think Zion's out for a couple months,
I mean, they said indefinitely, so it could be. We don't know.
and
It
he
could
didn't
be a
even
few
look
weeks,
good
could be
when
a
he
few
was playing.
months.
He wasn't efficient. Like he wasn't his normal like beast of a player like he usually is.
Right.
He wasn't finishing nearly as efficient. Like he was basically one of the most efficient finishers in the NBA, and he was not that this year. So I don't know. Zion is one of those things. But you want to talk about him? I just don't know how you trust him.
I kind of feel the same way at this point. Zion is one of my favorite players in the league, but to this point, he hasn't really proven that you can trust him to be able to build a team around. I mean, I guess you can build a team around him, but you can't really build a playoff team because the Pelicans originally were like the young, new, talented team that everybody liked for a while because they had Zion, Ingram, Trey Murphy, just a slew of young talent that they were
I
able to
still
just
like all their
elect.
pieces, but
Right, I do as well, but it's just you don't have the star piece that's going to be able to carry the load for the team
right.
and able to get you to a deep playoff run. Even though you do have the role guys, you do have the second
He's
option.
the guy that would
And
cause
he's the
the
guy. Yeah,
defense to break down and to double team and
yeah, and
to
he's
make it
just
easier on
simply
everyone else.
he's simply not consistently there. And so
Right.
until he is, or they get a guy like in because it's consistently there, like they just won't be the team that they want to be. So
Yeah.
that yeah, well we'll see how the Zion situation progresses, but I just
Yeah.
don't like the way that's going right now.
But yeah, it sucks. It sucks all the injuries and stuff, especially Katie and Chet because like they were playing so. And Ja is kind of a less serious one where I think he's going to be back in a week or two. At least that's what I heard. But the KD and Chet are obviously scary, but
Right.
hopefully their teams can hold it down. Let's move on to some other stuff. Well, there's some good news, injury news. So Asar Thompson's coming back,
Right.
and like I was watching his brother, who's probably one of my favorite watches right now because of his defense. But Asar brings the same kind of defense, so
Hmm.
hopefully that will help Cade, my boy Cade Cunningham, out in Detroit. Because I've been having so much fun watching Cade, but like that would be good to get a nice defensive piece, a nice lockdown guy to play with him.
Right.
And it's just nice because I think he had blood clots or something like that, so that's kind of scary. I'm not really sure about the details of it, but that would be good to get him back. And then Rob Williams is back,
Yep.
so at least we got some good injury news. Like that's my boy, Time Lord from the Celtics, and like he was one of my favorite players when he was in Boston. He's
He's
still
looked
one of my
good
favorite
too.
players,
He's looked good.
and yeah, he's looked good like the game or two that he's played, and he even hit a three like,
Right. Yeah. In the
and
first
he
game,
never
except
has
for the
done.
game.
One of his first threes I think he's ever hit in his career, and yeah, I just want to see because he's just got such a like. If I could play like a player in the NBA just for one game, like it would be Rob Williams just above the rim the whole time. That sounds like it would be fun. But I love watching him play. So hopefully he plays good and gets healthy, and then eventually gets on a contender because he don't really need to be on Portland, but they got so many centers, good ones like Klingon, and I wouldn't say
Aiden.
Aiden's like a good. He's good. I guess
He's
he's
a
good. Just
starter. He's a starter in the
yeah, he's
league.
starter level. All right. Knicks. Tibbs is wearing the starters out already, which is crazy because it's only what 7 games in. They have a below 500 record.
Hmm.
All of them are playing 40 minutes. Cat, he's playing 40 minutes, and he's rim protection. First of all, I
Yeah.
want to say that they have like the second best offense in the NBA. So let's just get
Right.
out the way. And Cat always is going to bring that because, and they. So basically, that's what he brought was the same thing that he had in Minnesota, which is he's going to help you have a good offense because he brings that spacing and he gives everybody else a chance to work. And he's a good shooter and he can score. And he's been scoring in bunches for them. But he's terrible at the rim as far as defense. He's not a good rim pro. He's not protecting the rim at all. He's giving up like 80% at the rim or some crazy number. I'm
It's
not even
actually
sure.
nine. It went up to 92.
Holy
Actually, he did
shit.
like 35
Don't say
for
that.
30,
I was
37 at the
trying to
rim.
be, I
So
thought I was being high saying 80, and then you just went up to 90. That's crazy. So, and I don't think that Tibbs playing all those minutes is helping his defense because if he's tired out there and then he's got to carry offensive load and then he's playing 40 minutes a night, how how good is his defense at the rim really going to be when he has to do all that? And so they need Mitchell Robinson back. And I think
yeah.
when Mitchell Robinson comes back, they'll play a lot of two big lineups, especially against good teams. But their offense is great. It's just I don't really know what to think of the Knicks. I still have to. They're almost like where Dallas is, where
Hmm.
I have to see how they. Because I didn't want to talk about Dallas yet, because that was one of the teams I wanted to see for a little while, get their
Right.
chemistry and everything together. And I think on the Knicks are in the same thing, and obviously Philly because they don't haven't had any of their players, but the Knicks are in the same boat where I feel like I have to watch them for a couple more weeks to know like really who they're going to be. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as far as the Knicks go, I just think that, well, like I said, I initially didn't like the move necessarily for New York, and it's not that Cat's a bad player or anything. It's just the way, if you put Cat at the five, you're just sacrificing a bunch of defense
Yeah.
in order where you want to get. Where for the Knicks was pretty much the Eastern Conference Finals and then to the finals. I just don't think that having Cat at the five is very effective to getting you to that. On top of the fact you lose some of your depth, so now you're playing guys like OG, you're playing Cat, you're playing Brunson, you're playing Hart all like 40 minutes a game, and that's a tip. That's a tip specialty. That's what he usually does. He's done it since he was a head coach in
And
Chicago.
then guys will start breaking down and getting
Starting,
hurt.
especially when you have guys like OG who has a long injury history. You got guys like
And Cat gets hurt.
Cat over the past 2 seasons. He's missed a ton of time. So it's like I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that's really good for sustained success in my opinion. So I'm kind of iffy on the Knicks, and especially if their defense is going to be this bad, I just don't see in a world where they're a contender, barring injuries in the East or something like that. So
Right.
I'm honestly kind of off the Knicks. To be fair, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, but you've been saying that since the beginning that they're overrated. But I feel like we still got to talk about them because they're one of the good teams in the East. There
Yeah,
isn't that
no,
many like good playoff teams in the East, and Brunson hasn't really looked like himself. So that's why I said I need more time because even though he did have a good game the other night, but like he hasn't really looked like he did last year. yet,
Brunson's gonna be fine, I think.
and he'll probably get better. And they have the second best offense, so that's not nothing. If they can get Mitchell Robinson back, then I think that they're be pretty fucking good team. They got to get their defense up over like 20th or whatever it is. But if that's my worry is that if Tibbs is going to play these guys all these minutes, even Mikal Bridges, like he doesn't look like I don't know, he just doesn't look like he's taking any kind of step forward. If anything, he's just stagnant from like what he's been, and his defense is not as elite as it was. He's playing all these minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously a Iron Man player. But shit, even if Tibbs is going to test that, Tibbs is going to test his iron will and see if he's not going to get hurt.
Right.
Because damn, but it's crazy to me that because I'm looking at the box score and I'm like, Mikal Bridges plays like 40 minutes and only takes like 11 shots. I'm like,
Right.
dude, how are you out there for 40 minutes? You got 6 draft picks paid for you, and you're not.
Really impact on the game.
Yeah, and then he's not a super elite on defense. And I got a lot of Knicks followers and friends and stuff, and they're like, well, he's playmaking and his mid range is looking good, and he's not like he's not like fucking the game off, but he's just not impacting it like you would want. Maybe he's just feeling his way, but I think that it was an overpay, obviously, and we just have to establish that that was an overpay. And so
Right.
we can't every single time we look at the Knicks be like, well, they gave up 6 picks for this guy, even though that we know that's a fact, but it's like we have to look past that eventually and just look at the team the way it is. And like OG's been clear better um, than him like, so far. And but he was a good player. I always thought OG was a better player than Mikal Bridges anyway. But it was a lot closer in my mind for the
Mm-hmm.
season. But what else? The Knicks, I don't know, like you said, we'll see. Nuggets, are they back? Murray's not back, but
Yeah,
Jokic has
Murray's
got
not
them
back,
on
but
their back.
Jokic is, yeah.
Jokic is backpacking them, and man, he's the best player I've seen since maybe Steph in his super peak, or like even better. Like this is probably one of the best players I've seen since Michael Jordan.
He's one of the best players ever, to be honest.
Yeah, and I was having this conversation because I don't want to get in this conversation because we're still gonna do our top 25 players, and so that's gonna be a whole nother conversation. But Jokic is obviously our number one, me and yours, so we can
Mm-hmm.
talk about this. Because I want JT to win an MVP one day, and I think that he's taken a leap to where he's like a MVP caliber player. If Jokic wasn't around, like I would feel way more confident that he would be able to get an MVP at this time. But I know that Tatum probably won't. So like I'm already like not tripping about the MVP when it comes to Tatum. I just want him to keep playing. I don't want him to think like, oh, I gotta get the MVP. I gotta put up numbers on. I just want him to keep progressing the way he's progressing and playing the way he's playing because he's playing great. This is the best regular season ball I've seen him play.
Right.
Just overall, I just feel like his timing, everything. But this ain't a Tatum segment. But I say all that because Jokic is the clear best. And I watched that game against Dallas last night, and I'm not even gonna say nothing about Luka. Luka wasn't even the best player on his team. Kyrie was going crazy, and Luka was kind of getting in Kyrie's way a little last night.
Right.
But man, Joker is so good, dude, and he's probably one of the best players that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know where he is all time. He's in my top 20. Probably needs like another ring to be like in my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But he's up there, and he's only 29. I had to actually look at his age because I wanted to see like, man, how many more years of Jokic?
They got at least 4 more.
He's got at least, I would say, if I had to
More.
bet, it would be like
I say
5 or
6.
6.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say 6. I was thinking
So if we're
6,
gonna get
but
6 more years of
being
this,
modest, I
if he
like
can
at
get
this
one more ring
4.
out of these like 6 years of a peak Jokic, if he can get one more ring, he will enter the top 10. Obviously, but how
Yeah,
he's
me.
playing, he's putting
Yeah,
up
me.
38, 15. He's averaging 29, like 11 and 10. He's averaging a triple double with 29 points, basically. I
Yeah,
mean, he's ridiculous, and the really reason why, because there's also like there's analytics that say Jason Tatum has been better than Jokic or whatever, but and I'm a Tatum fan, so the first thing I would do is bite that and be like, oh, look at this, but I'm not. I watch the games, dude. Like there's nobody better than Jokic. He's carrying his fucking team. He's making every single play around, and Tatum and Luka and SGA, they all make their teammates better. But the way Jokic does it is just in a whole different way.
Hmm.
I mean, he really raises the team, and he's the quarterback of the team, and like they got to give him the ball every single play. He's got to touch the. In some plays, he touches the ball 3 or 4 times in one play. They pass it to him, he passes it back. Oh, they can't get a shot, so they pass it back to him. He finds somebody else. He's just like when you say a hub of offense, he's
Yes,
literally
he's the
a hub.
definition. He's the
He's
definition
the
of it.
he's the prototype hub you would think of. You know, we didn't even know that was even capable. Like we didn't even know that was the prototype until he made it the prototype. Obviously,
Right.
because there's been a lot of centers like Shaq or dudes that were dominant as Jokic, maybe or very close. But the way he does it is just man. He raises the whole team. So I don't know. What do you think about the Nuggets? Do you think that like that he can continue to do this even if Murray's looking washed? And do you think he
Well,
can be like a top four seed? Do you think he can be in the Western Conference Finals?
yeah, with the way that the West is shaping up, especially with the injuries, it's definitely possible now. And I mean, if we seen him have this kind of usage, like even in the 2022 season when Murray was out, when MPJ was out, and it was just him and Gordon, when it was Capazzo and Will Barton and guys like that on the floor with him, like we've seen him kind of take on this kind of load and just drag his team to the place they need to go. And like I said, especially with the way the injuries in the West are shaping, I think it is very possible for them to get a top four seed, especially with guys like Christian Brown, who's looked pretty good. Julian Strawther, he's given them scoring juice off the bench. Peyton Watson is a very good defender. We know he's not really that great on offense. Jokic can make that work as long as he's covering up for him on the defensive end. So, I mean, I think Denver it's possible for them to get a top four seed. Now, as far as the playoffs go, I mean, I'll have to see. I still think Minnesota has their number if they were to play them in a series. I'm
Murray
okay.
looks like so bad.
Yeah,
It's and
yeah.
he needs Murray. Like Jokic is playing so good right now. But how can he keep this up for 82 games of playoffs playing like this? With Murray's going to be this bad. He can't even get off any good ISO looks. Like you said, he's a tough shot maker, and now he's not even making them. But when I look at him, he just looks a little bit chubby, a little bit slow.
Hmm.
He's just looking tubby a little and a little. I don't know, like he's got the dad bod going or something. I don't know what's up with him, man. But and Murray's one of the guys I say was every year I have said like the last few years that he's one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated player in the NBA.
Right.
And I always said Jokic can't win without Murray. And so I guess Murray's going to put that to the test because he's out there, but he's just out there running cardio basically. If there was like a halfway decent backup point guard and it wasn't Russell Westbrook, then dude, Murray would be like a bench player right now because that's how bad he's playing. Out of respectfully, I wouldn't put him on the bench as a coach, but because he won a championship for me. But like, God, man, that sucks for Jokic because I feel like the motivation's gone. And I had this epiphany in my head that maybe Murray saw that like he's not going to get an All Star game. Murray's never made an All Star game, so maybe his motivation, maybe he's just like,
Yeah,
bro, I
it's
won
a
a championship. I'm not getting any credit. They're giving all the credit to Jokic. I'm not. I'm never getting any love. Like I'm not getting All Star votes, and so maybe his motivation is just gone. Like I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. I'm trying to psychologically figure out what's wrong with Murray because I
Yeah,
don't
well, I
know.
see what's going on with him. I just think that the injuries sapped him to be honest, and just I mean he's gotten hurt a lot. Even when he came back, he's been hurt like on and off.
Yeah,
So I think the injuries are just starting to sap his athleticism, and he's not able to get to the spots that he's
yeah.
usually able to, and just longer defenders bother him now and things like that. It's actually it's just kind of crazy what's happened to Murray to be honest. But I
And I
still
never
think
looked at him as an athletic player, but I think he
yeah.
was a little bit sneaky athletic that we didn't really realize. At least I didn't. Because I never looked at him as a super athletic player, but now I look back and I'm like, well, he was definitely more athletic than this. And he was jumping higher than this. His first step was quicker. His acceleration was faster. So something's going on with him. And I just think that Jokic has the skills to. He was my prediction for the season to win the MVP. Because I know he's the best player in the world, and I had a feeling that he was going to have to carry his team, and he is. But it's crazy to watch him, and I think that he's one of the reasons why the NBA is doing great. Like, there's so many great players right now, and even though like the ratings are down or whatever, like fuck it. Like the actual play on the court, regardless of what people are saying on the internet or anything else, like when I watch basketball every night, like I was watching Sunday football and I watch Sunday night. I mean, I was
Hmm.
watching basketball all Sunday too because I watch it during the day. I watch mostly football, and then at night I was watching all the games. There was so much more fun watching the basketball games and all the shit that was going down between that game, the Denver Dallas game. We had the uh, I don't know, just like all these games that were there was so much shit that was going on. Well, we had the Celtics and Giannis, like and Jaylen Brown game. Wasn't that last
Yeah, that
night
was a
too?
good game. Yeah, that was Yeah, that was last night. That was last night. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
good
and then
game.
DeRozan went off.
Hmm.
Like there was just so much shit that happened. This I'm probably missing. I know I am, but there was a lot of good basketball. Anyways, I just think that the game's in a good place, and they just need to promote it right. And like we talked about, the NBA media needs to push the game better. That's the only problem. That's why the ratings are down because everybody's hating on the game instead of showcasing the actual best talent that we've had. And it's just y'all just need to put it and promote it the right way, basically. What else? LeBron has like had a bounce back kind of
Yeah,
recently.
he's looked good. The past like 5 games, he's looked pretty good.
Yeah, you think? What do you think? He's just going to be like one of those? Like he's going to fluctuate probably a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, just due to his age and whatnot. But I think he's still gonna. I think he's still like a top 20 to 15 player in the sport, even at his age. So yeah,
And
I think
their defense
he'll be
has
fine.
kind of been like falling off. And JJ's fed up with D'Angelo Russell, which I call that. And I've said that he needs to get off the damn team, but you can see that JJ's fed up with him. So that's going to happen. Some kind of trade. I tagged you in one of those posts about trading for like Valanciunas or like I don't
Yeah,
even care, bro. Just trade for yeah, Valanciunas. Get like I don't even care. Just get D'Lo out of there because I just he's just
yeah, he just doesn't fit
he
what
don't
the team
fit.
wants.
He
He
don't
just what the
fit because
team wants to
LeBron's
do.
already slow. You can't have a slow guard when you got LeBron out there being slow. You need somebody that can move his feet, stay in front of people, hit shots when they're open,
Hmm.
and you know. But and if they could get a big, like if they could get a big to help AD sometimes, and because AD can play with a big and play without the big, so that would help him
Right,
throughout the season. So I think that'd be a good actually idea, especially if they think Gabe Vincent and Austin Reeves can handle the like ball handling duties and stuff because LeBron's going to handle a lot of that too.
right.
What else? Amen. I already said about Amen Thompson's defense, Dyson Daniels defense. Those are probably my two things to watch, like favorite things to watch in the NBA right now is watching
Yeah, Ahmed's
those two guys.
amazing on that end, and so
Oh,
is
man's
Dyson.
crazy.
But it's
Man,
just
his
the way.
defense today was insane. His defense every game is good, but I was just like really locked in watching him and the way he moves, and he's just a terror. And then Terry Eason is the same way on the Rockets. And then I would put Jalen Suggs in that category with him and
Hmm.
Thompson and Dyson Daniels. But those three are just super fun to watch on defense. So those I just want to like say that. I always talk about that on Twitter, but those are like I love watching defense. I'm like a defense guy. So that's how when we do our top 25s, you're gonna see that I value defense a lot. So that's one of my biggest things with that. What about Tyler Hero? Been
Oh yeah,
hooping.
yeah, yeah. Hero has had a pretty good
He's
start to the
actually
season.
averaging 23, 5 and 5, and he's shooting great. He's shooting over 50% from the field,
Yep.
and he's been carrying the offense
Hmm.
most of it because Jimmy's only averaging like 15 points when he plays. And Terry Rozier, I don't think has looked that good.
Yeah, he's
Like
been bad.
he's not been good. Bam hasn't really been good on offense, but Tyler Hero looks good, so I thought that we needed to shout him out.
Tyler's been really good, man. To be honest, I kind of did like the Terrier in Tyler backcourt. The thought of it at least just having two ball handlers who could just create for themselves a bit, but Harry just hasn't been that good so far to start the season. I
Yeah,
mean, I like
he
to see
could
how
pick
they.
up.
I still do like Miami because I just feel like they're playing pretty bad right now, and they don't look necessarily terrible in my opinion. And I like a lot of the pieces that they have still. Ware's getting some minutes because Thomas Bryant went down. The rookie Pele Larson, he's been able to contribute. Jaime hasn't really been that good, but I think he picks it up as the season goes on. Haywood did a pretty good.
Jovic has looked
Yeah,
pretty good,
Jokic looked good in the Timberwolves game. Haywood played pretty good defense on Ant last game. So yeah, I do
and they
still
got
like.
drawing
And
up
they have
ATOs. Did
Spo.
you see the
Yeah,
Spo ATO
yeah, yeah.
at the end of the game?
That was a crazy play, and then I think it was
He's the best.
I think Finch made a bad decision taking Rudy out the game right there, but it's that's not
Yeah,
it's not there really
yeah. He
there.
was not the Rudy should have been in the paint there. You're right,
Yeah, but
but
just the
he
zone.
that's how good Spo is. He knew what play to run. He knew who was going to be the defender. Like he knew all that shit. That Spo is so good. He scouts the team, your team, so he knows exactly what you're going to
Yeah,
do
he
on
threw
those
a
moments,
yeah he
and
threw
so
a
he
lot of
knows what to run.
yeah he threw a
Um,
lot of zone at Minnesota during that game. It kind of mucked
he
up the
loves
game
to
for them.
do that.
So yeah, like
Minnesota's a good team because they're
that was
like
just such a
kind of like the
Miami
early
win by
Celtics
them.
with their passing. Like Minnesota's like just learning how to pass really,
Yeah,
especially Ant Man. And so like when you run a zone, it just like kind of makes them. They're not used to it, and so
especially with a new team that's trying to gel. So yeah,
yeah, so it's awkward. Exactly, that's another thing. And so Spo does that when to teams like that, whether it's like they have a trouble passing
hmm
a lot, like consistently, or if they're like new, like if they have players that aren't like just getting back from injury. He does all that shit. He finds all the little ways to beat you, especially in the playoffs. But they look like Miami's looked the last few years. But I'm worried about Jimmy because it's a contract year
yeah.
and he's
Jimmy
only
hasn't looked
averaging
that good.
16 points. I expected a big bounce back year from Jimmy. I expected a contract year from Jimmy because he needs it. He's going to be up for a deal, and if he's only averaging 16 points and half of his shots are from free throw line, I mean half of his points, um, and so that means that he's struggling to get make actual shots. When he's only averaging 16 and half of those are free throws, um, yeah, he's not the same Jimmy Butler, and so
Right.
that's the issue. But who knows? Because when the playoffs come, he could turn it up again. But I just don't think that that's the case because it's his contract year. He would be turning it up now, I think, or at least he's going too soon. If
If
he's
it's gonna
got
happen,
anything
it's gonna
left,
happen soon.
it's gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna happen if he's got anything left. Um, the Warriors road trip was kind of crazy because they beat Boston. We didn't have Jalen, obviously, but still, that was a good win for the Warriors, and they look great to me. They look like probably the second best team in the West right now, to me. And we already talked about them last pod, but you want to talk about Kaminga, I'm sure. What do you?
Yeah,
Why don't you talk about your team in their road trip in the last couple games?
yeah. The Boston win was just a pretty good start to the road trip. I did expect us to go 2-1. I did see us going 3-0, and Cleveland pretty much blew us out by 40
Yeah,
points or something like that. They made every shot in the second half. They shot like 76%
yeah.
percent half. It was
Cleveland is
just
a buzzsaw
they
right
just
now,
had
and I
they
think
just
you
had
guys had a
crazy.
letdown game.
Yeah, that was just we beat Boston. We were on a high. They came into Cleveland. And they
Yeah,
they did their thing. They've been pretty much a wrecking ball the entire season. They're 12-0 right now. So I mean that was just a very good win by Cleveland. Then we won the OKC. Unfortunately, Chet got hurt because I did want to see how we matched up with them just as a fully healthy team. But I think regardless it would have been a close game. And I just liked how we when Chet did go out, we took care of business. The defense was doing what the defense does. They held Shea down pretty much until the fourth quarter. I think they had like 80 almost like I think they almost had like 83, 84 points going to the fourth, so they were pretty good defensively and the offense was churning. So yeah, I just like how Golden State's running right now. They're like a
yeah. Their
well
defense looks great. They're
and
contesting everything except for the Cleveland game. Obviously, Cleveland's a buzzsaw, and I think it was more that you guys. Obviously, the
we were
Boston game
overhelping
was
them.
an emotional game. You wanted to win for Steve Kerr because of that whole Tatum aspect of it, where they had the
hmm
Olympics thing. And I think just any game where teams get up for Boston, so it's like a big game. So a lot of teams you have a letdown game after that, similar to how people have been with the Warriors over the years, where they have a big game against the Warriors, and then the next game they'll be like, it just be. I've seen that with good teams. Teams get up and then they lose to a worse team the next time, and
Right.
that's just a natural emotional thing where they're like on a high, and then they're like, oh, now we got to play Cleveland, even though Cleveland's been good, but it's different than playing the Celtics, obviously. But I think that has something to do with it. But also Cleveland is really good, and so that had something to do with too. Like you said, they couldn't miss, but the Warriors looked good this whole season, really, on defense. They're flying around. Gary
Yep.
Payton looks
He's
like the
back.
Gary Payton, yeah, that I know. Gary Payton second that I know, which is lockdown defense. He was giving everybody hell in the Celtics game. Um, and Kaminga, he's kind of stepped it up. His playmaking's getting slightly better. That's your guy. What
Yeah,
do you think?
Kaminga. Yeah, he's looked pretty good. I just like the fact that he's just because he's pretty much the only guy that can get downhill consistently on our team. I mean,
Yeah,
Wiggins can do it sometimes. I mean, but it's not really. I don't love his finishing as much as it was once in the past. I just think he lost a little bit athletically,
yeah,
just slightly. And I just think Kuminga's just a guy who can break the paint consistently, and Steph can get downhill sometimes. But I mean, he's 36. He really saves his
yeah,
drives. He really picks a spot when he does want to drive. So yeah, Kuminga's just a
yeah,
very integral part to the offense because he can handle the ball. I mean, we seen him in the Celtics game pretty much run the second unit as a point guard, and he was able to be extremely effective, especially in transition, just being able to get downhill, penetrate the paint,
yeah.
kick out passes. And I just think that Steve should just kind of, in my opinion, run more of the offense through him because he's clearly the second most talented offensive player on the team, and he does have
Right.
some stuff just inside the arc, which bodes well with Steph and Hill. So I just think that he's going to grow into a guy that's just very important for the Warriors, and he's going to get his contract. And I think he's just going to be
He
very
looks
important for
like
the
he
Warriors.
deserves it right now, and it's crazy because he got benched, and I was saying, "Damn, oh man, now he's gonna get traded." And now look, did a 180, and he's been playing the best basketball of his career. His playmaking, his handle looks way better from last year. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
at least when I've watched him,
And his
he's
3 point
not
shot,
he's
he's
not.
more confident in his 3 point
His
shot as
shot
well.
looks a little better. It's still not where you really want it to be, but he's so athletic that it's just good enough to where they have to close out. You can't just like leave him wide open. And then he's good. And I think that, like you said, he's the only dude on the team that can basically create an advantage besides Steph, because Wiggins isn't doing that consistently.
Nah,
Um,
not anymore.
Not even Pods needs a pick, or he needs to be like off the ball. Steph to get him a look. He's not like he can obviously on certain players get a look off, but they don't really have guys that can create. And Draymond, because he's going to create for somebody else, he's going to attack the area, like he's going to attack space and make you collapse on him and find somebody, which
Right.
is great. Draymond's the best, one of the best ever to do that. But you need somebody that can, uh, one at the end of the shot clock, create something, and also run a second unit and making it create advantages. So you're right. I think that Steve Kerr is just learning, because I think he's just learning to how to deal with a wing. His offense has always been based on skill, and now he has like a slasher. Because even when he had KD's not a
Yeah,
slasher.
KD was like a slasher guy who could play out ball
He's not a
down. So I
slasher.
think
He's more
yeah,
more
they
like a
kind of have
tall
to
shooting guard.
yeah they kind of have
And
to design an offense around Kuminga in my opinion. It's like it really does go well with Steph because he's so good inside the arc and Steph is so good at the 3 point line that
right,
it could really be a good connection in my opinion.
yeah, especially if they start doing some, like I see Kaminga as like a version of Jalen, I can see a little Jalen Brown in his game.
Mm-hmm.
Not I don't think he's like his ceiling's as high as Jalen, but who knows? But I think that he has a lot of that in his game where he needs to be like get it in the post against a mismatch, or try to get Kaminga in a mismatch. Like on a pick, maybe even running some actions with Steph and Steph could get some big on him, or a wing on him, and then he could get the point guard on him. That would be nice to see some stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And he's just an attacker in transition and shit. Like they need to be looking for him, and he should be the highest. Is he the second highest scorer on the team?
I actually haven't looked at the Warriors
I
statistical
think
stuff
he
in like
is.
a
I
minute, but
mean,
I'm pretty sure it's to this point because he had the 21 point game and he just had the I think 18 point game or something like that. So
but if
yeah,
he's not, then that's a problem. I think he needs to be
yeah,
for the
because he's
Warriors to be
clearly
at their best version of themselves.
yeah, and I've been
But
saying
yeah,
that
they
since last year. To be honest, I've been saying that since like last year because he's like really the only guy that, like I said, consistently breaks the paint, and we need that. We've never really
yeah,
had that, to be honest. It's just a new wrinkle
yes,
that we need
and you love
to
it. You love to
yeah.
see it. But I do agree. I think that that's good for them. But I think Steve Kerr needs to figure out how to use it, because like we said, he's not. That's not like his usual like forte. But yeah, the Warriors look good, and I could easily see them getting to the conference finals. I could see them getting to the finals even, especially if like Chet doesn't come back fully healthy. But even I obviously in a 7 game series, it wouldn't like shock me if the Warriors beat OKC. It's not like OKC has like some like
Yeah,
experience in those
with yeah with okay
situations like the Warriors do.
yeah with okay, so it just bodes well for us because we can play small ball and that's really what we like to do.
Right.
Like we can go Steph Steph, GP, or Steph Melton, Draymond, Wiggins, and Kuminga, and that's like the lineup that we really want. That's really how we want to play. Like I think a team like Minnesota will probably give us more problems just due to the size, but I think OKC bodes well just as far as a matchup, and we always played the well, especially even last year we were kind of like a. I mean, we pretty much. I mean, even the year. Well, I'm not gonna count that year because Chet didn't play. I'll just use last year's example. But yeah, he was just we just played them very well last year, except for that one.
Who
The
do you
one
think is the biggest problem for the Warriors? Like if they had to face Dallas or the
Dallas.
Nuggets,
Well, if we had to face the Nuggets, it would just be slowing. It would just be. I mean, you really can't slow down Jokic, but it's really about stopping the others, in my opinion. And I think last
or
year,
maybe the Wolves would be tough.
the Wolves would be the matchup. I think that we have a hard time with, in my opinion, just due to the size difference. Like they can
And
really
the
just out
defense,
physical
yeah.
us. I mean, the only way I think the way we build to win that series is just by like just like outthinking them. But I think
Right.
their defense
That's how
is
the Warriors beat you in any series is they outthink
yeah
you. Draymond outthinks you and Steph outthinks you basically, and they're probably the two of the smartest players in the NBA,
yeah
and on the same team, and they've been doing it for so long, and they know, and they Draymond is. That's why Draymond is way beyond the stats. He's one of the players that I can say like the stats will never tell the truth on Draymond on what he really does on the court. And a casual fan will never understand how good Draymond is and how smart he is, and he's always in the right position. He always knows, like he knows his personnel. He knows the other team's personnel. He knows what your go-to moves are. He's waiting on your like finishing moves, whatever you spin. He knows that. He knows everything. He knows where to wait. Like it's annoying to play against Draymond. Uh, like Jason Tatum, for instance, the whole reason why Jason Tatum struggles against the Warriors is for no other reason than Draymond telling everybody how to guard the guy.
yeah
Draymond knows exactly what to do against because he's their friends and they were on Team USA together, and that's why they all know how to guard each other. That's why JT knows how to guard KD, and that's why KD never has good games against Tatum because Tatum
they
knows
know how to
all his
guard
moves. They train together and shit. So he sits on everything. And it's annoying. You can see whenever KD has to play Tatum, he's like annoyed because he's like, dude, this dude knows all my shit, and so now he can't do anything. But that's how Draymond is against Tatum, and it's annoying. But that's how smart he is because this is one of the most elite minds in basketball. And so at like man, and when it comes to the playoffs, and he can get physical, and he starts yelling, and the refs let him get away with a little bit more than everybody else. The refs let him get away with a little bit more, moving screens a little bit more. All that shit counts in the grand scheme of things with Draymond. And it's annoying when you have to play against him, but as like a Warriors fan, I'd be like, yo, this dude is
yeah. I love it.
invaluable. Yeah, it's invaluable, man. Like this, you don't. It's a very rare kind of player. You don't find these players in the NBA that often that are like Draymond.
Yeah,
He's
you
one of
don't
the
find many
most
galvanizers like
unique
that.
guys. Yeah, he's one of the most unique guys because not only a galvanizer, but also he's like a Kevin Garnett almost. Like he's like a version of Kevin Garnett. Obviously not as offensively talented, but um, whereas he's so talented and so motivated and locked in that you have no choice but to be that. And I just like the way Draymond's looked this year, and so we've gone along about the Warriors because I kind of believe in the Warriors.
Yeah,
Um,
it looks like the 20 it looks like a slightly better version of the 2022 team because I just think Kuminga's a flat out a better player than Poole and more impactful for us just simply because I think with Poole it was an overlap with the guard play in some ways we were
yep,
able to
couldn't
and
play certain lineups with all
yeah,
three of
and
them.
I just feel like with Kuminga that you can just slot him in as a wing who's good on defense and can score on offense, so it kind of slots in a little better than
Yeah,
with
and
Poole.
Buddy Hield
So, but
has
he,
looked great off the bench. He's a perfect six man for
He's
them.
a better person than Clay. I think Moses Moody is just a good role player. Like Melton's a good role player. I don't think we had a guy like that on the championship team. Like
Yeah,
I just like all the pieces that we have
the
right
key
now.
is finding the right five for like the final
I think
closing
the
lineup.
well, I think the right. I mean, I know that. I mean, I know that. I think the
What do you
five
think
is
it
right.
is?
It's probably Steph, Melton, Wiggins, Draymond, and uh, Kaminga.
Okay, so Melton, no Buddy, because Buddy closed against the Celtics.
But I think yeah he did. But Melton was hurt that game. I think
That's true. That's true.
yeah, I just think Milton's two-way play, and I think he
And
provides
he hit big
offenses,
shots against us too. But
and
I
he
agree
also
that
provides
Buddy was
shooting.
getting attacked, and they were kind of
But he actually held his own. Oh, yeah, held his own pretty well in that game. To be fair.
yeah. But he was getting attacked, and I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
over a
that's
series
true.
he will get attacked, and he'll get attacked until that shit starts to break.
Right.
Um, so like I think that he's still a great six man though, and he'll come in and he's perfect for the Warriors system,
Right.
and he's like a poor man's Klay Thompson, but like prime, he's a poor man's prime Klay Thompson, not Dallas Klay Thompson, but he does all those things with the relocating, passing, moving, and finding a spot, and he plays well off Steph. I feel like they like respond to each other's game and really like appreciate each other's game because they're two of the best shooters in the world. So I think, and they just got that chemistry. It seems like when they're on the court together. All right, so Bilal Coulibaly is the prototype wing. I'm like, you already had me like ready to say that this dude is going to be a superstar, and I have been saying this dude's going to be a superstar, but like the more that I've been watching him, he's like the prototype wing. I was pushing back on he can't be better than Brandon Miller because I still am a high believer in Brandon Miller, and I think he's going to be an all-star very soon, and he might even be an all-star before Bilal, just because
He's
he's a
more
little bit
developed.
he's more developed, a little bit more polished. But man, dude, like Bilal is Koulibaly's finishing like 90% at the rim, and 42% of the shots at the rim that he's taking are unassisted. So that means that he's creating all his own shots. I was watching him today, and I've been watching him basically till you gas me up about the Wizards. I've liked watching them, even though they get smoked by like 20 every game. But I just like watching Koulibaly and Sarr, even though he looks lost half the time, but he's got the skills. Keyshawn George is steady. His shot's starting to look a little better, and he's getting better every game. I feel like, even though he's gonna have his
His
rookie
downs,
mistakes,
yeah.
they just do a lot of dumb shit because they're rookies, and so they have like lapses, and then they have moments where they look brilliant, like especially Bilal. But like you can even hear the other announcers for the other team every time that I watch a game, and
It's
it's
like,
like
oh wow,
they're like
these
this
guys are
dude
good.
yeah, and especially when they watch Bilal, they're like this guy is way better than he was last year or whatever. Like, and you could tell that none of the announcers have ever seen them play like Bilal play like this, or they've never even noticed Bilal before, and so they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like,
Right.
because he's really busting everybody's ass, and he gets to the rim, and then he's so athletic, and he's got a soft touch at the rim, or he's gonna dunk on you like the other game when he dunked on you. I don't know who he dunked on, but it was just a vicious
I think it
dunk.
was De Silva.
Yeah, and I saw somebody on the internet who's like a popular uh, Twitter account, but I'm not gonna say any names. But he was comparing him to Paul George, and I'm like, dude, first of all, Brandon Miller's way more of a Paul George. Uh, Bilal Coulibaly is like he gets downhill. This dude is not. He has a three, he has a handle, but when he hits his handle, he's not looking to shoot a jump shot. He
He's looking
wants
to
to
get
get downhill.
downhill.
Yeah, I love that about him, but he's not like Paul George really. I don't know where that person got that comp from because Paul George is much more Brandon Miller. Coulibaly reminds me of I
I
don't
mean,
know.
he's got like some Kawhi comparisons, but I just think he flat
No,
out gets. I just
he's
think he gets
because of his
downhill more than
defense.
Kawhi.
Maybe he
So I
gets
don't think
downhill like viciously. He gets
I
downhill like a
don't.
T Mac or like even
Yeah.
more stronger than that. Like he's like a Carmelo but with more hops. Like he gets downhill violently. Um, and he has like a second jump too. He's just super athletic, and his defense is clamps too. So I think he's got like a lot of different wings in his game. But that's why I said he's like a prototype because I feel
Right.
like one day when it all clicks in a couple years, when his shots start getting better, his processing, when his team's a little better around him, he could be the highest ceiling guy out of like him and Miller. So he's the prototype. That's my nickname for him.
That's fair.
And
That's fair
then
assessment. Yeah,
and
I agree
then
with that.
before we get into our top 25s, I wanted to do some Pacers talk. We haven't talked about the Pacers really on any of the episodes.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I just like Mathurin looks like he took a step up this year. He scored like 38 the other game,
Right.
and I always like Mathurin, but he's got a little too much tunnel vision for me. But he's a bucket, and he's not a bad defender. So if a guy's a bucket like that, and then he's a
Then he's a good rebounder.
good, yeah, he's a good rebounder. Then like he's tough. He's looking like he could be the third guy. And so if they got three guys in the playoffs this year, they're going to be a tough out too. They're going to be right there with Cleveland. I don't know. Still think Cleveland would be a bigger threat to Boston, but Indiana's style of play does give the Celtics problems, where they at least bring them to the brink, and they might get a game or two
Right.
off the Celtics, because they they run and they wear you out. You're tired. But I heard Jaylen Brown talk about it many times about playing Pacers. He even said Pacers was a tougher matchup for the Celtics than Dallas was in the finals, because he said, I was tired by halftime or by the third quarter playing against the Pacers. You're dead tired because they run and they don't stop. And that's why a lot of teams have trouble with the Pacers, because it's a track meet. But they even keep it up in the playoffs, which is hard to do. And that's how you
Right.
know that they have a real like system that works, because it's hard. Like you can be a run team, and there's a lot of teams over the course of NBA history that have been like run teams that run a lot and like to get up and down. But when the playoffs come, all that shit gets slowed down.
Right.
And it's hard because everybody gets back on defense, and everybody's just the game plans make sure that you're not going to be able to do what you like to do. But for some reason, the Pacers still are capable of doing it. And it's basically because they have Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell, who are two playmaking, push the ball fast point guards, make quick decisions. And so when you have 48 minutes of great point guard play, even though Halliburton hasn't played like his peak basketball yet,
Yeah, he looked good
he's
on
still
Sunday,
his
but other
style,
than that,
but his style of play still contributes to that system. Even when he's not like making shots, he's still making sure that they're like at the speed and moving at the rate that they want.
right.
So what do you think about the Pacers?
Well, similar thoughts to last year. So, I mean, the defense. Well, to be honest, well, not really. Honestly, the defense does look slightly better. Hallie hasn't looked that good. I think Ben
Yeah,
Mathurin, guy for them, is like you said, is pretty much is very very important. Just having another shot creator who's consistently able, especially he's able to get downhill consistently,
yeah,
which is what we love about him.
and he's a dog. He's got a lot of dog in him, which I like.
Yeah, him and Hallie have a good chemistry, and I just think Pascal, just him being able to play out Pascal as well, is just a really good
Yeah,
trio, a really good combo they can go to. And I like that their defense is getting a little better with Jarrison being inserted into the lineup due to the Niche Smith injury. I do like the Pacers a little bit more than I did last year, but it's really up to Hallie to be able to get back to the level that he was the first 3 months of the season. But he's dealing with a few injuries right now, so we'll see how that
yeah,
goes. But I do like the Pacers. I think they're probably a top four team in the East.
for sure. Um, and Orlando has actually been playing better than I thought without Paulo, but
Yeah, Franz
I
has looked
still
good.
and then unless Paulo's going to come back, yeah, Franz will look good. But unless Paulo's going to come back soon, then I think Pacers probably pass, or if they haven't already. So they'll probably be like the third seed or the fourth seed at worst. And yeah, I mean, they got a good system, and they're gonna be a tough out. They're one like when people talk about the East being bad, I think that that's a little bit overblown.
Yeah, I
Because
just
you
think the
got teams
records
like
are
the
bad right
Pacers.
now.
The records are bad right now, but like you got teams like the Pacers, the Knicks, the Magic, the Cavs, the Celtics. That's like five good teams. Like the Heat are not good right now, but like I could see other teams that like record wise aren't that good picking it up and becoming decent teams. So I don't think it's just like a total. I don't think the East is a total like wasteland. But all right, let's get into the fun stuff because we've been waiting for this, and we talked about that we were going to do our top 25s because ours are obviously going to be way different, and that's why. Like I wanted to even do a podcast with you because we don't look at shit the same. We watch different teams, we watch different players, we like different
Right.
things. But our top 25s are, a lot of our lists will be the same, but there's a lot of it that'll be different. 25 to 1, start at 25. Basically, when I make a top 25, I'm just doing it for like this season. Obviously, we're going to take into account like past um, playoffs, but also I'm taking into account how these guys look this season too. And basically, my question to you is the top 25 players you would draft if you were trying to like win a championship this year. What do you think they're going to be this season?
Right.
So, because we will probably do one of these at the end of the season too and see how different our lists change. But why don't you go ahead? Let's hear 25.
Well, at 25, I have Jaylen Brown. That's my 25th best player. To me, just
Yeah.
the two way value he provides. He's a pretty good scorer, good transition player, pretty decent 3 point shooter. I just like he's just a winning player, a two way wing that does it's pretty much a solid second option on your team, and you can win with him.
Yeah,
It's good
I
with
got
him.
him a lot higher, but I think we can talk about Jalen when I do my rankings.
Right,
But I got him a lot higher than you do because mostly because of the on ball defense. Like when he really turns up and wants to pick you up 94 feet, like I've seen him
right.
do to James Harden, like I've seen him do so many stars where like okay, there's a top scorer coming in tonight. He can pick a guy up, ruin his night and still get his 25 points. That's a big deal in the playoffs. So like he might not be the most efficient or like analytically best player all the time, but in the playoffs, you just need a guy that can just lock somebody up and still get his 25 points no matter what, and that's Jaylen Brown. So like I got him higher for defense because if it was just a offensive player and not didn't have the level of defense, then I would understand why he's only at like 25. But the defense that he brings, I think, puts him a little higher. But keep going with your list.
Okay, at 24, I do have Pascal Siakam. I just think, especially with last year's playoff run, I just like he was pretty much for a lot of the time was the best player on the Pacers team. I like him. I like
Yeah,
his in between game. I think
this
he's
year he has two.
yeah, I like his in between game. I like his playmaking chops. I like his defense. I mean, he's not like an elite defender, but he is a positive on that end. I like how he just fits into the Pacers offense. He's just a go to scorer very often on that team. So
Yeah.
I just like Pascal 24. I think he's a legit second option on the
Yeah.
championship
I
team.
like Pascal. He didn't make my top 25, but he was like right on the top of the list of my honorable mentions. But I do get why you have him on there because he's been basically the Pacers' best player. And also, the only reason why, like, I just laughed because, and I already said this to you when I first initially looked at your list, because Jalen always gives Pascal the business, and and he knows Pascal's game, and he always like pretty much outperforms him. So like I was laughing because I'm like, dude, he got Pascal over him. But it just depends on the team you got because I think it's like a number one option. A Pascal is maybe a little bit better playmaker. So I understand if you were gonna like, use Pascal as like a number one option. But it's more of like a preference thing with that.
At 23, I do have Rudy Gobert, the heartbeat of the Timberwolves defense. They were pretty much just like statistically speaking, they were one of the best like defenses ever, just with him at the helm, and especially what he did for Minnesota, just coming from Utah and being able to change their organization. I mean, they haven't been to the conference final in 20 years, and as soon as he gets there, they beat Denver, and they're in the conference finals versus Dallas with a chance to go to the finals. I just think his impact on that team is just like it's unquestioned at this point, just with how he anchors that defense and just him being a live threat on offense, and just even in the Sun series, he's arguably the best player there. So I just think that him at
Yeah,
23 is a pretty good.
yeah. It was hard. Like this top 25 is hard because like I had like seven dudes that I want to put in the 25th spot. I could have put Harden, Maxey, Cade Cunningham, Wemby, Jimmy Butler, Pascal Siakam, DeRozan, Trey Young, Dame. None of them made my list, and Gobert didn't make my top 25 either. But like as soon as you said his name just now, I'm like, damn, how did I not have Gobert in my top 25? And the real reason is because I do agree with you. His impact probably is higher than say like his impact is probably maybe even surpasses a Sabonis. I like it in my opinion, but it's just like hard. It's hard. It's splitting hairs. Um, when you get like to these last spots in the top 25, but I respect that. Let's hear the next one. What are you at 22?
At 22, I do have Kawhi. Kawhi would be higher if I knew what I was getting from him, but I simply don't at this point in his career, especially the last when the last things we saw from him was barely being able to get down from the rim in the Dallas series,
Yeah,
and then we go to Team USA. He gets sent home because he can't play, and now he's not playing for the Clippers. So as much as I do like Kawhi as a player, it's just very hard for me to kind of rank him
yeah. I'm surprised you even had him. I
in a
didn't have
format.
mine. Yeah, I
I
didn't
mean, I
have him
don't.
on mine. But like if he was healthy, he'd be like top 12 or top 10. But I do understand that you wanted to have him in there because he deserves to be
Yeah,
on the
because
top 25.
he's had the resume. It's just whether or not he's going to get on the court, and that's why I just have him at 22.
I get it. So who's
And then
21?
at 21, I do have Cade Cunningham. I mean, he's just simply become one of the best guards in the league. To be honest, just like right in front of our eyes, to be honest. Just what he's able to do, especially now as a two-way guy. The other night when they played the Lakers, he was able to pretty much do a pretty good job on LeBron. Even in the Rockets game, he had a bunch of two-way plays. He had a block on Sengun at the end of the game where they weren't ever to recover the ball. He's just, and then especially with the load he carries offensively, being pretty much the only competent decision maker on the team. He does have a high turnover ratio, but I can't really blame him too much for that, just based on what the load he
because
does take
he's
on.
trying to make a lot of shit happen. It's hard
Yeah,
on a team like.
and he's been getting down. He's getting to the rim more, just with more frequency, and he's finishing better. I like his mid range game. I think he's becoming
He's playing great
improved
this year. He's
improved
playing
3 point shooter.
great.
So yeah, I just like him at 21, just being one of the best all around guards in the league.
Yeah, his playmaking is moving me. He's been getting triple doubles left and right. And when I watch him, which I've been loving to watch him lately, and I go out of my way to watch Cade now, he's so good with his ball handle for his size and his IQ, how he gets passes off. He knows all the little angles. Like some players are capable of making a pass like a Jokic where he can have it with his left hand, his right hand. He doesn't have to put two hands on the ball to put it to the right place. He can just, he sees a guy and now it's just off his wrist and straight to the guy. That's how Kate is. And that's rare to find.
Yeah, he doesn't really have to the ball. The ball doesn't really. When it doesn't have to, the ball doesn't touch the ground, and that's one thing I do love about Cade. He doesn't really
Yeah.
care about. Yeah, he doesn't really care about getting off the
And
ball.
he's automatic. I love that you put. He didn't make my top 25, but I love that you put him in there because it was hard for me to leave him off, along with a couple other players. But who you got for what, 20 or 21?
Yeah, no, I'm at 20. So at 20, I do have Bam Adebayo. Same kind of the same with Rudy Gobert. He pretty much is the heartbeat of the Heat's defense. He's one of the most switchable defenders in the league. He's just one of the best, pretty much defenders in the league in general. So he hasn't been that
Yeah.
great offensively so far, but we've seen what he can do when he is clicking on all cylinders on.
I got him at this exact same spot as you.
So yeah, I just think that when he is at his peak, he is one of the best two-way players in the sport. So I do have to put
Yeah.
Bam at 20.
All right.
And then at
So
19,
I like your
oh, my
list
fault.
so far.
Yeah, then at 19, I do
Besides the
have.
Jalen, but go ahead.
Yeah, look, we can talk about it.
We'll talk about that one. Yeah.
But yeah, at 19, I do have Chet Holmgren. Just same thing here. He's pretty much the heartbeat of OKC's defense as well. And before the injury, he was kind of blossoming into possibly the second option on that team. So I do just his mid range stuff, his off the dribble stuff has gotten better. I like his 3 point shot. Just been able to hit some trail threes. It provides some spacing for Shea.
He took a leap. He deserves that spot. Yep.
That's why I have Chet at 19, and he also was pretty much the DPOY before he got hurt. So yeah, I think 19 is a good spot for him. At 18, I do have Paulo, just based off of what he was doing before he got injured, and just being the number one on a pretty much like a possibly could have been a top 4 seed in the East. I think that was just going to be a very good accomplishment for him. And even last season, what he was able to do for their offense, granted his percentages and things like that weren't necessarily great, but he's a second year player. He was a second year player, just trying to do what he does on that team. So I just think that him at 18 is a pretty good spot.
No, I think that Paolo and Chet are hard to separate too. I think that it's hard for me to pick one or the other, and we've had this talk already. And so I think that because I had Chet and Paulo, I had Paulo at 17, Chet at 18, and you had them back to back too, because it's hard to separate them. Really, as far as who's better, I think they're both really, really good and going to be top 10 players very soon.
At 18, I do have Devin Booker. I just think that just the offensive player that
That's
he can be.
low.
Yeah, to me personally, over the last 2 seasons, I don't think he's had the same impact that I've liked him to have, especially last year in the playoffs. I didn't really like the first 3 games that he played versus Minnesota. He just looked very okay. Like the game 4 he was pretty special, but outside of him being a scorer, I just haven't really liked his process that much, in my opinion. Just how he's run the Suns offense. Even this year, being an off guard next to Tyus Jones, he's kind of been up and down, and that's kind of how he was last season, just being up and down. So I don't really know how I feel about Devin Booker as being in the top 15 right now, just based on what he provides, which is pretty much just scoring and he's okay defensively, and his playmaking is also okay. So I can't.
I got him higher than you, but like all your points are making sense to me. And he's one of those type of players where he's just like, he catches a heater for like a month, and you're like, holy shit, this dude's like top five player. And then he'll have a couple months where he just looks like I don't know if he's top 20. So he fluctuates. That has to do with injury. That has to do with KD and everything. But I had him higher. All right, so who's after Booker?
After Booker, I do have Zion. Now, Zion to me would be much higher if he was able to stay healthy, but just what he's basically displays that he just simply can't do it. But the talent is clearly there. I think he is a one when he is healthy. But I mean, just because because he's able to dominate the sport just within the restricted area, and if he was able to be healthy, you could build like a pretty good offense around that, in my opinion. But he just simply hasn't displayed that he's able to do that, so I can't really rank him much higher. But I do think if he were like consistent, that he could be a number one.
Yeah,
So that's how I feel with Zion. I think, but he has the talent to be higher.
for sure. And the crazy thing is that this is even before the injury. I didn't even have him in my top 25 because I don't trust him. And then I found out he's hurt. So now I feel vindicated that I didn't have him in my top 25 because he is like a top 15 player when he's healthy, like and playing at his
Right.
peak. But I didn't have Kawhi in my top 25 because when I'm like I said, I'm looking at the draft. Like, who would I draft right now that I trust if I need to win a championship? Zion's not on that list because I don't trust him to be
Right.
healthy. But I get why you do have him on there. So who's after Zion?
After Zion, I do have LeBron at number 16. I just think that just being able to just especially his defense, that's really what kind of gets me with LeBron now at his
Yep.
age. His his,
Yeah, he's a
consi-
cone now.
his consistencies or inconsistencies on that side of the ball, it really drops him. Even though in the playoffs he does show up from game to game for quarters
Yeah.
at
And he's a
times,
high IQ defender,
and
but he's not going to get any stops.
right, it's not right. His foot speed is just not the same. He's like, I mean, he could still provide some weak side stuff, but I don't think that's really what you want him to
Yeah.
do with point in his career. So really, for me with LeBron, he's still a great offensive player, but I'm not sure he's a clear cut number one. If you were to put him on a team and wanted him to be a number one on the title team right now, I'm not sure if he could do that, especially at his age. Just the reps and miles it'll take for him to do that. I'm not sure that he's like his
And
body
he's
is
usually guarding the
capable right
worst
now.
player on the
And
other
he's
team.
shooting. Yeah, just because of just due to his age. So I just
Me
think
and you have
that's
LeBron at the same time. I mean, the same place. I got him at 16 and you got him at 16.
yeah, 16 for
And for
me
the
is
same reason, because he's still LeBron some nights on offense. Well, not
yeah.
really. He's not peak LeBron, but he's gotten better as a shooter, so that kind of makes up for it. But his defense, he dies on picks. He guards the worst player, and when he is like put in a hard situation, he pretty much doesn't affect it. He doesn't. He can't really get shooters. Like he can't contest shots that good. So I don't know. He's not a liability on defense because he's got a high IQ.
Hmm.
Um, but he's not affecting the game on defense. So,
Right.
uh, who's 15?
At 15, I do have Lamelo, and I just think that he's one of the best offensive engines in the league. To be honest, I just
That's
think
high
that
for him, but he's scoring what 29 points a game, living up to that ranking right now.
I just think when he plays, he's one of the best offensive engines in the league. And if you have a guy like that as a high end number two or even a number one on the team that you can build around, especially with his playmaking ability, I just think in his shooting, you can definitely build a system around that. I just
Yeah.
think that if you're able to build a right team around that guys, you can get top 15 player production out of him and maybe be like a conference final team if you're able to build a right team around, like for example if you were to put him
Yeah,
on a team like
which
Minnesota.
Charlotte ain't the right team, but if he
Right.
was on like an elite team, I see what you mean. And even now, look what he's doing. Just needing him, we just need him to be healthy, and he's going to be an elite offensive engine. He's putting up crazy numbers.
Right.
He's hitting clutch shots.
Hmm.
He has ice in his veins. Like I see when he hits these clutch shots, he's not even like it's a big deal. He's just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
that's
not
what
even
I do.
thinking about it. It's
I
just
just hit
another.
these shots.
It's just
Like
another day
I
for
just
him.
do this shit, and that means a lot to me. Like I'm one of those guys that like I see the psychological of like I like to see where a player's going psychologically
Hmm.
because I feel like that makes a big difference on how great they can actually be. And so I think Melo has that like where he doesn't care what anybody thinks,
Right.
which helps him and hurts him. He's not like stressed about missing it where some players are like, damn, if I miss a shot, like what are they gonna
Right.
say of me on the internet? I don't think LaMelo's like that. I think
He
LaMelo
doesn't really
literally
care
does
about that.
not give a fuck.
Right.
And I think that that's good in a way, but it also can be like detrimental because like it's good to have a superstar on your team that like cares very much, and so he's kind of got to pick that up a little bit because you still want him to be like a leader on the team since he's the most talented player on the team. You don't want
Right.
him to be a negative leader where he's like, yeah, don't give a fuck like me, because that don't work for everybody. But I think that you have him higher than pretty much most people would have him, and you have Cade higher than every. I also think that you have a great eye, and I think that this season those ratings that you have them in will be validated. I don't have LaMelo that high, but I do have him in my top 25. But I even have
That's
him
fair.
over Kyrie, which is kind of crazy to me, especially after watching Kyrie the other night. Only simply because that was hard. They're right next to each other in my rankings, LaMelo and Kyrie, because it was very
Mm.
hard for me to decide. But the only reason why I put LaMelo is because um, Kyrie has nights where he's like magical, like last night, and then he has nights where I'm just like, bro. Um, and maybe that has a lot to do with Luka pounding the ball and he gets out of rhythm.
So yeah, pretty much my thing with LaMelo is I just like the fact that he's one of the one of the better offensive engines. He's becoming a better defender. So if you're a neutral and you're like one of the best offensive players in the game, I just think you deserve to be in the top 15, in my opinion. So
If you're a
because
neutral defender, I wouldn't call
yeah,
him a neutral defender yet either. That's another thing.
yeah, I think
Uh,
he's getting there.
but he will get there probably. He's got the size. He fouls too much, and he's undisciplined sometimes. But he's so good on offense, like you said. He's just an engine, and I think he will get better on defense. I think Charles Lee is going to be screaming in his ear until he does. Him having Charles Lee, I think, has really helped his game too, and that's what makes me confident. I think that he's given him all these responsibilities, telling him you're the man, and basically saying be the franchise player, and he's in his ear about it. I'm sure he's motivating him every day.
Yeah, 14, I do have Wemby, which is pretty controversial to a lot of people, I guess. But
Yeah,
my thing is, I mean, I think that him just being on the Spurs right now as a number one, I don't think he's a number one option right now. But if you were to put him in a number at like on another team as a number two, I think he'd pretty much be one of the best number twos in the league, especially with his defensive impact. And
yeah,
it's just his two-way play, especially if you were able to play off of somebody else. I think it would be really hard for him to be guarded just because of the array of skill sets he's had offensively, especially him being one of the better passers in the league, in my opinion. So I just like Wemby at 14 just due to his two-way play. If he were able,
yeah.
if he were,
Our ratings are very different. Like I don't even have Wemby in my top 25, and you know my feelings on Wemby, but I do understand why you got him there. And if he was a number two, that's a good point. Maybe he would be more efficient, and also he's obviously elite on defense. So if he had like elite defenders on his team with him, and then he probably would have the best defense in the NBA. But I just don't have him up there because of his shot selection, his IQ level at this time, his strength against smaller players on offense, his tendencies to want to think that he's Kevin Durant. Um, but it was hard to keep him out of my top 25. But like I said, there was a lot of players that should have made it. It's hard to cut off at 25. I felt like we needed to do 30, and I could have got all the players I wanted in. But our rankings are definitely different. So let's hear. What are you at? 13.
yeah, 13, I do have Jalen Brunson. I mean, he's still like the number one option on the Knicks. I mean, he's pretty, he's just going off last season. He was almost a 30-point per game scorer. He was just one of the best scorers in the league, especially in the box. So I think and he's not really a great defender, but he is an engine at the end of the day of the number two offense in the Knicks as the Knicks are right now. So I just do like him at 13. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a great leader. He deserves that spot. And he's not a good defender, but he's not like Trey Young level bad. You know,
Correct. He tries.
he tries and he slides his feet, and you can shoot over him. He's short, but you're not just gonna like bully him or anything.
Yeah, at number 12, I do have John Morant. Kind of the same thing with LaMelo. He is one of the best offensive engines in the league, and he had just the way his game, just his rim pressure is also some of the best in the league. He's one of the one of the league leaders in drives this season. He's one of the best passers in the league. So I just like just his offensive upside. And this season, honestly, he's been a better defender, especially as a help side guy. Which has been really a really interesting development that I've seen from him. So I do like that and his rebounding and things like that. So yeah, I just think Ja at 12 is a pretty good position.
No, I like that spot for him. He's a couple spots lower for me only because I had a couple players higher than him that obviously that you didn't. But also because we haven't seen that, like we were just talking about that earlier in the pod, but we haven't seen him at his peak level yet.
Right.
And it's been a long time since we have seen him at his peak level. But I think at his peak level, like when he was in the playoffs against the Warriors before he got hurt, or like that season, if we can see that version of Ja, and his playmaking has gotten even better since then. But I like haven't seen the scoring explosion games yet from him. But he's still in my top 15. So I agree with you that he deserves to be there, and he's that talented. He's that important to the Grizzlies. But who's next?
At
This
number
is
11,
this is fun.
number 11, I do have I, number 11, I do have Katie right now. I
Hmm.
just because I'm not sure. Well, I think he could be higher, to be honest, in my opinion. But with me, it's kind of like his age and just him as a number one at this point in his career. I'm not really sure
Yeah,
right now. I don't know how I feel about him as a one right now, in
I
my
mean it's
opinion.
hard, especially when he's been getting swept like every time he goes to the playoffs.
Right,
It's
and
hard to
I'm
have him
and
like where I see people putting him in top five and stuff, and it's just like, bro, when did we start? And I think Durant has been playing great this season, just on both ends before he got injured.
mhm.
And Kevin Durant, obviously, I respect him. He's one of the best players, maybe one of the top five best offensive players I've ever seen in my life. And but his toughness, he can be physical, like in playoff settings. Physicality bothers him.
Mhm.
He loses his efficiency. If you have to make him slide his feet, he starts to get tired. Um, Stuff like that because he's older, and I think that like if we're saying this is a top 25 of dudes that I want to win a championship, I think your rating is. I have him a little bit higher than you, but only a couple spots higher because I understand what you mean. Like if you just look at his raw numbers and say he's shooting 50, 40, 90, he's 28 points. Like yeah, but you actually have to watch the games and understand that like over the course of time that this shit like it's a marathon. If we're just doing a sprint, then Kevin Durant's like a top five player. But it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And you need somebody that's gonna be there every single game. He could be higher, but I understand why you got him there.
Yeah, 10. I do have right now. I do have Shea at this moment. I do have Shea at number 10 right now,
Which is
and
low for him.
it
So tell
is
me
going.
why.
It is. I just think while Shea is a great scorer, I just think that, and I think he's a pretty good gap defender. I don't know if he's a great on ball defender, and he does have some lapses off ball, but he is a positive on that end. You know, he gets a lot of
Yeah.
deflections and steals and
He's a
things
really
like
good
that.
defender. But I know
So
what you mean. He's not locked down, but he, for
yeah,
like
and
a
I,
guard, for a lead guard, he's one of the best star guards for defense in the league.
Right. No, I do agree with that, and I just think that him as a scorer, he is an elite scorer. But I, I just think just outside of being a scorer, especially offensively, like how are you helping the team like get better, and like how are you making your teammates better in that sense? And
Right.
I just think in order to, I feel like in order to win a championship, you have to elevate your teammates in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form, outside of just you being the main creator all the time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I rank Shea a little low because I had him top five last year.
Yeah.
But the more I started to think about him, the more I started to watch him. It was just
I
kind of
want
like
you to
not
remember
really
this.
sure.
Remember this argument that you have against Shea that he has to be the main creator because what are you doing without the ball? And he's not a good off ball player, or he's not providing spacing, so he has to have the ball. And but I think Shea's higher. I got Shea higher than you, but I just want you to remember that because there's other players that are going to be on your list that are very high for you that are the same way. Like I don't think a Giannis is much different. I think Giannis needs the ball. I think
I
Giannis,
agree.
he's not. What is he doing if he doesn't have the ball? He's not even good power forward. He's not like Amari Stoudemire doing pick and rolls and catching lobs. He's not doing the stuff that he. So he needs the ball and he needs to move out of my way. And I'm gonna do my Giannis thing and I'm gonna score my 30, 40 points and that's it. And which is good and that's kind of how Shea is. But it's like the other things that like the off ball, the spacing that makes other players better, or the passing that makes other players better. So I don't know why I just went into a Giannis rant, but that was just one player. And I actually it's kind of funny because there's a lot of rumors that OKC might get Giannis because they have the assets to trade for Giannis,
Hmm.
and I don't think that would be a good trade for SGA. I don't
Because
think
that
that
kind
would.
of, yeah.
they're
They
kind
kind of
of
do the same
alike.
things.
They're kind of alike. They can't shoot really. Well, they're all like SGA is getting slightly better at shooting, but they don't provide spacing, and they both need the ball in their hands. It would be a lot similar to Dame, except it would be like a more mid range version with SGA obviously.
Right.
But so I say that. So I just say that to say I understand your point about SGA. I have him
Mhm.
higher though. Um, but let me hear the rest of your list.
At 9, I do have Donovan Mitchell, and I just like the fact that this season, especially
So
this season,
Mitchell over SGA.
yeah,
Now it's getting interesting. This is now the list is see the beginning of the list. That was a warm up. This top 10 is when we're really gonna start getting down to the nitty gritty. So why is Mitchell over SGA?
I mean, especially looking at last season, if you look at the stretch that they went on with Mobley and DG were out, and they were able to just hold it down with Allen and Mitchell. I think they went like 20-2 in that stretch. I just think like things like that, and I think even if he wouldn't have got hurt, he would have been a lower end MVP candidate. I I mean, I think you can make an argument that he was just as good as Shea last year, if not better. I mean, even despite, I mean, yes, Shea is a better scorer, but I also think Donovan Mitchell's a better playmaker, and he's not a negative defensively in my opinion, especially now in Cleveland. So and I think as an offensive engine, I think I like Mitchell slightly better in my opinion
That's a tough call. Like I think that's a good uh,
because I just like his pull up 3
argument.
points.
I
I
the
like his.
only
All right.
yeah his 3 point shooting he provides more of that. He provides more even shot creation. I would say
I like his
that
playmaking more.
yeah I think, but obviously SGA is one of the best drivers in the league,
Hmm.
and Donovan Mitchell is an elite driver too. But SGA is like probably the best
Hmm.
besides maybe Giannis. Um, and so like that I would give the edge to SGA, and the other thing I give the SGA is
The
the
defense,
defense.
right?
Yeah, the defense. That's what separates it from me. Um, is the defense. I think the SGA is like a really good defender for a guard. Um, he's not like a lockdown defender, but he's just so like he's smart and he just makes shit happen. Whereas
Right.
Donovan Mitchell's just kind of there. He doesn't get like smoked, so he's not like Trey Young or he's even better than probably Garland, obviously at defense, but uh, he's not like elite. But
Hmm.
I don't know. They're both equally scary. Like if I had to play against Donovan Mitchell or if I had to play against Shea, like I would be like both these dudes scare the shit out of me. So I feel like you could go either way. I would go with SGA, but I understand why you got Mitchell up there. You have Mitchell higher than most, I think, or you have SGA lower than most. But it makes sense. You're making sense. So keep going.
At number 8, I do have Anthony Edwards. I just like me personally, I think he's just one of the best drivers in the league, one of the best shooters in the league, and he's slowly developing as a playmaker, and he's a positive defender. So I think if you have the combination of those 3 things, I think you're just pretty much a top 10 player in the sport,
Well,
especially.
it's crazy to me that Ant Man is your dude that you love, and you're always bigging up every single time I talk to you about NBA. Almost you bring up Ant Man, and anytime he has a good game, I see you happy about it. And
Mhm.
yet, I have Ant Man higher than you on.
Mm. Yeah, I
I
mean,
got Ant Man higher than you on the
I've
top
been a
10. So
slow, I've
who's?
been a
I'm more of an Ant Man fan than you, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been the slow cooker on and because I'm just not, I don't want to be quick to put him in the conversations. Just to like naturally like let it happen. But I think this season he will be definitely viewed as a top 10 player. Just
So you
based
don't
on
have
what he
him
did.
better than Steph.
No, not yet, not yet.
Yes.
At 7, I do have Tatum just based off of the 2-way play. The I mean he's just I mean even coming into this season he just looks like an improved player in my opinion. He has jump shots falling now. I just like the way he looks this season, so I think he's worthy of the 7th spot. And I just think in my opinion, just him as a 2-way player, what he did in the playoffs for the Celtics, being able to switch 1 through 5.
That's
Uh,
way too low. I'm gonna fry you, but go ahead.
yeah, I just think, yeah, just him as a 2-way player, his playmaking ability, just things like that. I just think that just what he proved during the playoff run and what he's proven over his career, I think he's worthy of the 7th spot.
Yeah, but he's playing like way better than that right now. You know that,
I mean,
right?
yeah, it's 10 games. That's true. He is playing pretty great right now. I don't disagree with that. But I
All
just
right,
think
I
they're
just wanted you to admit that. At least you admit that so far this
yeah,
season, he has looked
he's playing
better
great.
than these other dudes that you're about to name ahead of him. I'm just telling you right now. That's why. But go ahead. I'll tell you where I rank Tatum, and we can talk about Tatum when that happens. But go ahead. Who's
At
6?
6, I do have This is a hard one because I kind of go back and forth between these two players. Like really, I really in my heart, I want to put Embiid 6, but realistically, I feel like I should put him 5 and put Curry 6. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, bro. Even though I think I would take
Why
Curry
would you put? I don't get that. See, why would you put Tatum and Steph Curry behind Embiid? Tell
because
me
I just
why. If you're trying to win a championship this year, that's who you would pick. If your life was on the line, would you say? And they said you could have Jason Tatum, Steph Curry, or Embiid. You're gonna take Embiid.
if Embiid is healthy, I mean,
Still, not
I'm
even if
I'm
he's healthy, I'm
personally
not taking him.
I'm personally taking Steph, but you could definitely make an argument.
I might take Steph, and I'm gonna take Tatum before I take Embiid. But I want
And
to.
because I
But
just
go
feel
ahead.
like
I understand why you got Embiid high, but I'm just giving you my reason why I don't have Embiid that high
yeah, 'cause
because
I
I
just feel
don't.
like okay.
When is he going to come in? When is he going to be dominant in the playoffs? When am I going to see him dominate in the playoffs and not get tired in the fourth quarter? When
Yeah,
that
that's the
happens, then you can talk
yeah.
to me about him
That's the
being
that's why I kind of was considering putting Steph over him because I've just simply seen it in the playoffs from Steph multiple times, and I
eh,
mean, yeah, Embiid is a great regular season player, and
right,
he's had his moments in the playoffs as well. He hasn't had
right.
the he got his moments in the playoffs, but he's also been plagued by injuries, and in some senses. But I think when
You're
he is
just going off purely talent.
yeah, I think at
He
his peak
needs to
he's
be
the
up here.
best player in the East
Yeah.
at his peak.
Okay.
So
He's
I
not,
just
but when he's healthy, he might be.
yeah, when he's
But go
healthy,
ahead.
yeah, when he's healthy. Yeah, so I think I will have Curry at 6. Just I mean, just him still being one of the best offensive ends in the league at his age, what he's able to still do. I mean, we seen what he did to OKC the other night. We seen what he did to Boston on Wednesday. I
He's
just
Steph.
think
He's still
just
Steph.
his offense, just what he can do on offense is just, and he's the neutral to positive defender still even now. So I just
Yeah.
think, yeah, what he's able to do for the Warriors, being a number one at 36 years old and leading a pretty much a top 2-3 seed in the West right now is just pretty
And
remarkable.
the drop
The
off
sixth
from
spot.
him to the second best player on the Warriors. I mean, Draymond's the second best player, but the drop off from like the second best offensive player
Mm-hmm.
from Steph to like whoever
It's
is
massive.
drastically more than a lot of superstars. And so I got to give him that too. Like he makes everybody else around him look better. He's a Jokic in that way, and because of the spacing, the movement, the passing between him and Draymond, and just the cohesion in the system. So Curry's Curry's the man, bro. Like I said, if I was just picking for a series, he might be in my top three. But
Actually, you know what, bro? I think I'm gonna put Curry over Embiid, bro.
as you should, Tatum should be over Embiid. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I think yeah. So at 6, I will have Embiid, and then at 5, I will have Curry. Just
Curry
for the
deserved to be top five, man.
just off of
He's not in my top five, but if the way you're explaining your top five, I think he deserves to be there.
yeah, that's why that's just based off of the load he's carrying for the team right now. I just think because I think Embiid has had. I mean, even last year he had Maxey on the side at his side during the next series where he was able to carry in some moments. I don't think Curry's really had that in the past 2 years, to be honest, and he's still able to get it done, even though Embiid is an anchor on the other side of the ball, which is great in his own right. But I just think just because I mean I've seen Embiid break down. I mean I've seen Embiid go cold in fourth quarters and not being able to do things, especially like for thinking back to the Celtics series where he pretty much
Yeah.
collapsed in the game 6. So I just think I think I'm comfortable putting Embiid 6 and Curry 5, and then at 4 I do have AD just based off what he's done so far this season. I mean, with the Lakers, he's pretty much been like an MVP candidate for the most part. He's been like, I mean, arguably, I feel like unarguably like one of the top 5 players in the sport, just based off his two-way play, what he's able to do, and just JJ being able to run more stuff through him, like as a hub and things like that. I just like how AD's looked this season, even last season, really over the past 3 seasons, where he's able to been to stay healthy for the most part and just carry the Lakers at times when they needed it on both sides of the ball. So I'm comfortable at 80 at 4.
That's what's up.
And then at 3, I do have Luka at 3 right now. Just I mean, if he were, I mean, he just hasn't really looked good this season, and even last season, the postseason, he was up and down, just like due to injuries and things like that. So I mean, but when he is playing, he's probably, if not the best offensive player in the sport outside of Jokic. So I just have to value him, even though his defense, he is kind of a cone, and things like that. I mean, he's just shown you, he's displayed that he can drag your team to like a conference finals. I mean, he's done it twice pretty much in the last 2 years. I mean, not in the last 2 years, the last 3 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm excited to hear the rest of your.
Yeah, and number two, I do have Giannis. Just, I mean, basically what he's been carrying the Bucks for pretty much just the Middleton injury, to be honest. Even last year when they did have Dame in the lineup, I mean, the team looked good. And even this season, the team has looked good, and Giannis has just been still there doing his thing. So I think he deserves the number two spot on his list. Just offers
Even though
dominant.
his team sucks, but
Yes, team
that
does.
bothers me that he can't close games out. Like he goes score 40, and then he can't close the game.
Right.
It has a lot to do with his team, but it also has something to do with his skill set. He cannot make jump shots, and there's only so many times that you can barrel into the lane.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the games, when it gets tight and the defense tightens up even more, it that's kind of a thing that his weakness. He doesn't have many weaknesses, but that's one of them. And obviously, off ball is a weakness because he doesn't really do the pick and roll thing like you would want him to. So,
Right.
but obviously, he's dominant. He's unstoppable. Not many people can stop him one on one, if anyone. And he's gonna put up 30, 40, and in the playoffs, he's a monster, bro. And so, number one, we already know Nikola.
Nikola, arguably a
Yeah,
top 10 player in the sport ever. You know,
yeah,
he's Nikola Jokic. That's what he does.
yeah. And he just keeps amazing me when I think that he's gonna slow down. He keeps killing it. Like and like this is probably the best Tatum's ever looked, and I'm just hoping that he gets second in MVP because I already know and already predicted that before the season that Jokic was going to win MVP, and now I'm even more convinced that he's going to win MVP because of how Murray looked.
Right.
Murray is basically handing Jokic the MVP because Murray's been so bad that Jokic has to do so much
Yeah, he has to
just to
carry
win
him.
games. And so now he has to do everything to win games. So his stats are going to show that. And he's one of the only players I think to average what he's averaging, which is like 29, 10, and 11 or whatever. And he'd be the first player in NBA history if this season ended right now um, to lead the league in rebounds and assists. And he's third in the league in scoring. So like he's obviously the best player. There's a big gap to me between him and like a Giannis or a Tatum, um, or a Luca even. Like just I don't know. He's just in a different planet, I think, and he's carrying a bad team.
Right.
Murray's washed up. Gordon doesn't look good. Michael Porter Jr. is what he is. Like he's got Christian Brown looking like a decent player right now. Um, so Jokic is the man. Let's do my 25. Well, I'm gonna do mine a little quicker. Ours is way different though, and
But
I'm gonna post these so people can look at both ours, see how different they are. They can read them. But first off, honorable mentions that didn't make it that I wanted to get in. I already named them, but Harden,
mm-hmm.
Maxey,
Mm-hmm.
Cade, Wemby,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler, Pascal, Siakam didn't make it. DeRozan, Trey Young, Dame, Zion. All these dudes didn't make my top 25 because that's how good the NBA is. And that's what our conversation was about the other day when I was saying that people were hating on the NBA, man. Look how many talented players we
Yeah,
have in
we
the
have
NBA.
this
I
just a
can't
bunch of
even
talent.
fit Wemby or Cade Cunningham into my top 25. And a lot of people would have Wemby in their top 25. I don't for certain reasons, but like Pascal Siakam, Trey Young, like these dudes, even Dame Lillard, like he's always been a top 25 player. So it's kind of crazy that I don't have him on here. James Harden, like, but all right, at 25, this dude has moved up, and he's officially. I wasn't even having him in my top 25. I can't remember what I took. I might have took Dame off. I think I took Dame off. He was my 25th spot, and Darius Garland is number
Oh yeah, my
25.
guy. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you didn't even have him. And you're more of a fan
Oh
than
yeah,
Darius Garland.
I had him at like 27. So I mean, that's fine for me.
Yeah, but I
25.
had him at 25 because I watched him last night. I watched him tonight. He's taken over fourth quarters. He's one of the only pure point guards left in the NBA. I love Darius Garland, what he's doing right now. And he deserves that spot. I have Cat and Sabonis next, and if I had to pick a team, like I might take Garland over Cat and Sabonis. The only reason I even have Sabonis in my top 25 is because I feel like he has to be in there for his numbers dictate that. Are you proud of me that I put your boy
Oh
in my
yeah, not
top 20?
25. Oh yeah, I'm very. Oh yeah, I'm very. Oh, yeah, I like that. I
I
have him
just
at
slipped that
27.
one in there because I wasn't
I
gonna
have him
have
at
him, but
27.
I've
I didn't.
watched him so much, and I said I have to have him in there. He's playing too good, and I just really believe in Garland.
Right.
Uh, so
Yeah,
number
sir.
24 is a player that has got like he's a love hate player, and he's playing great. He's a great offensive player and a bad defensive player. Same. These next two players are pretty much great offensive players and bad defensive players, and they're bigs, which are my least favorite kind of big, which is an offensive big that's not good on defense. So both these players are kind of like piss me off, but also they're so talented. I felt like they needed to be in the top 25. So I got Cat at 24,
Mm-hmm.
and I got Sabonis at 23.
23. Okay.
And it's just like what they bring on offense. Cat's gonna make sure that you have a top five-ish offense. As long because everything that he provides, spacing wise, and skill wise, and scoring wise, and then Sabonis passing, playmaking. I just felt like he needed to be on there. I could have put DeRozan in the way that DeRozan's been playing this season. He's
Mm-hmm.
actually been probably even better than Sabonis,
Right.
but I don't know. I just felt like I'm like actually a big Sabonis hater because he drives me crazy in the playoffs, and I'd be like, dude, he's so overrated because you get to the playoffs and he doesn't have like ways to get an advantage against great defenders. He doesn't have that many good offensive moves, but um, at the end of the day, that's also like um taken away from how great he is at offense, and so I can't just completely discount that, even though I
Right.
would have rather had maybe another player in there. At 22, I got Kyrie, and it was kind of crazy because last night he looked like vintage Kyrie, the best Kyrie you could ever imagine. And so I almost put him higher than this because I have LaMelo over him, and it was a tough pick between LaMelo and Kyrie, and I ended up going with LaMelo one spot higher at 21. Just because his offensive ceiling at like running the offense, he does more for his team. He's averaging 29 points, an efficient clip. Uh, and he's averaging way more assists than Kyrie. He's just a better offensive player, like overall engine than Kyrie, even though Kyrie's probably a better pure scorer. But I think it's really close, and a lot of people would probably say I'm stupid for taking LaMelo over Kyrie. But I just think that Kyrie has games where I'm just like, "What are you doing? You're not really affecting the game like tonight." Whereas LaMelo is younger, more spry, and he affects the game every single night. And so I think that that's the reason why I put LaMelo over him, and
I think
LaMelo's
that's
at
fair.
21. What do you think about that?
I mean, Kyrie's a little high for me, just based off of his inconsistency as a second option in the playoffs last year, and that's my
Yeah,
only gripe with Kyrie. I think I will have him a little lower, but I mean, I don't mind at 25. If
yeah.
you, if
I'm
you,
just I feel like Kyrie is I don't know, man. He's a tough player to gauge because he could be so good and so deadly, and especially with if he's playing good and Luka's playing good. I mean, it's really tough to beat. And Kyrie's one of those players that he could catch like he did last night against Denver and be 80% from the field in the second half and just like go crazy and destroy your team. And you can have nobody to guard him sometimes. And so he can be like a walking mismatch basically if he's on. But
right,
I just felt like he needed to be in there. But he's slowly sliding because if you asked me this time last year, I would have had him higher than this. So he's just sliding down, but he still has performances like he did against Denver, and so that's why I got to keep him in my top 25. But yeah, Lamelo is 21. I love what I see. Well, we already talked about him, but I love what I'm
hmm
seeing for him. Number 20 is Bam. We both had him at 20.
right,
Number 19 is a guy you did not have on your top 25, De'Aaron Fox. I
mm,
got Fox over Lamelo and Kyrie simply because I actually like LaMelo as a player. Like if I was a GM, I'd rather have LaMelo than Fox. But I think like if I had to go for this season right now to win a championship, and they said what point guard could you have, LaMelo or Fox? Life on the line, I'm taking Fox just because I think he's just a little more advanced. He's a little tougher at this stage of his career, more grizzled vet, more ready to win, more hungry to win too. So that's why I took Fox. Um, 18, I got Chet and Paolo 17 because I told you I couldn't separate them. Me and you had them back to back. Uh,
Right.
And then at 16, we both had LeBron. So we're kind of like close on that on
Mm-hmm.
so far. Number 15, I had Ja. I could have had him. I would have had him higher, but like his health and he's so like I don't really know what I'm gonna get um throughout the season with Ja.
Right.
But if I just knew he was gonna be healthy and everything, then he'd probably be like cracking the top 10. But he's not, and I don't know. So and he's already hurt right now. So I feel good about him being at 15. Number 14, I got Brunson. He carries the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
He is the Knicks. The Knicks would not be the Knicks without Brunson. They would still be a trash team if they never got lucky and got Brunson.
Right.
Um, he earned it. He's got some of the best fundamentals in the game. He's a leader. He's cold. He's a clutch player, and he's not a total liability on defense. Number 13, I got Jaylen Brown. So I got him over a lot of players that you wouldn't have him over. And I told you why. It's because of the on-ball defense. And I know that in the playoffs, if a dude's going off, I can put Jaylen Brown on him. He's going to pick him up 94 feet. He's going to strap him down, and then he's gonna wear that dude out till he's tired for the whole series. And then because that's kind of shape that Jaylen Brown gets in, where he's in better shape than everyone else. And
Right.
I just trust him in the playoffs to be an impactful defender and still get his 25 points every single time. And it really doesn't matter what kind of defense you play. That's the thing about Jalen compared to say Tatum is that because Tatum sees way more doubles, Tatum sees way more crazy defenses. They're always trying to stop Tatum, but it doesn't really matter what defense you put out there. Jalen is going to get his no matter what. It doesn't even matter if you put the best defender on him. He's still going to find a way to get his 25 to 20 points and affect the game. Like he's basically, I can count on him no matter what to be a great playoff performer
Right.
and be a great second option, if not the best second option, if you add in the defense. And so I feel like that he's proven it, and I think he proved it in the playoffs and what he did to Luka, just wearing Luka out and basically he snatched his chain a couple times and had him looking embarrassing. How many players in the NBA
All right,
could
buddy.
embarrass Luka like Jaylen Brown? I don't know if any could. And so that's why I think he deserves to be up there. But I understand that a lot of people don't like Jalen or they think that he's like overrated and that his analytics and a lot of his on off numbers don't help. But that's what happens when you stagger with a top five player like Tatum. Your on off numbers are not going to look that great because when you're off, Jason Tatum's on. And when Jason Tatum's on, he's going to be cooking. So, like 9 times out of 10, your on off numbers are not going to look great. And they've actually gotten better like last year, Jalen's on-off numbers were not bad, but you'll hear like the people that only watch the spreadsheets and shit like that, but they don't watch the games, and they'll be complaining about Jalen like they think they know, and I'm just like, dude, watch the game. Like just because he staggers with Tatum, so his on-offs, that does not watch the game. Look what he's doing. Like he's making crazy shots. He's bullying players.
That's fair.
But I put Donovan Mitchell 12.
Okay.
Uh, Sometimes I feel like Jalen's better than Donovan Mitchell, but in my heart of hearts, I feel like Mitchell just provides more on offense. Obviously, he can't provide the defense that Jalen gives, but his offense is elite. Shot making's elite. Impossible to guard. So
Right.
I got Mitchell at 12. I got Booker at 11. So I got Booker a lot higher than you, but I do know what you mean. Like he can go through like phases of where he doesn't look that great, and then he catches a heater, and so like, but he's overall, I feel like he's just a slightly better player than Donovan Mitchell. Offensively, it's kind of even, but defensively, Booker's better, and so that's what kind of gave me the edge. But they're right next to each other. I had Booker, Mitchell, and Jalen Brown like this right next to each other. Then number 10 is Joel Embiid. Like a lot of people would have Joel Embiid in their top five, their top three, just based off talent. He probably is that high, but if we're talking about winning a championship, I do not trust Joel Embiid. I don't trust him to stay healthy. And even if he is healthy, I have never seen him, especially against Boston, but even in other playoff series in the East, I've never seen him in the fourth quarter not tired. Like he
That's
gets
true.
winded in the fourth quarters and then he stops rebounding, stops scoring. He's not efficient. Like that's what Tatum did in that 51-point game in the game seven. He kept pulling Embiid into switches and cooking Embiid because Embiid's tired and he doesn't want to be out there chasing dudes around for 7 games. And I think all that matters to me. All that matters when I'm thinking about winning a championship, that matters to me. So all that stuff that he does in the regular season is great. But until I see him in the best shape of his life and dominating for 48 minutes and not getting winded and tired, then I'll feel like I can have him higher. Plus his injuries.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't even have Kawhi or Zion in my top 25 when they, talent wise, they definitely deserve to be on here. But because of injuries, and I'm respecting Embiid enough to put him in the top 10, even though that I feel like his injuries and his being in bad shape, I don't know if I would like, if I'm drafting players to win a championship, like, this is where you're at, bro. I don't think that you're a top 5 player if I'm drafting players to win a championship. Now, skill, talent wise, I do think that you are up there, but this ain't what it ain't all just about talent. There's a lot more that goes into it than just talent. Um, so number 9 is KD. Uh, Kevin Durant is cold blooded, man. And before he got hurt, he was, and he's kind of the same thing with Embiid, where, and it's different, but in the playoffs, he kind of, I don't know, he's not as good as he is in the regular season. And I think that's because physicality affects him and he gets a little less efficient. And then they game plan for you more. And I just like, there's certain things that you can do to KD to get him out of his like rhythm, and that affects him in the playoffs. But he's still like an amazing player and super efficient, one of the best scorers ever, and he
Right.
deserves to be in the top 10. So I got him there. Number 8, Steph Curry. This is the lowest I've ever had Steph, but on a night to night basis, like for 82 games in the long haul, I just trust like the players above him to like affect the game every single night more. Uh, and I don't know, like I just think that I don't trust Curry, especially with his injury history and like kind of how it is. So this is now we're splitting hairs when we're talking about the top 6, 7, 8 players in the
Hmm.
league. Besides Jokic, I feel like everything is splitting hairs, like between Tatum, Giannis, Luca, SGA, Curry, Anthony Davis, Ant Man. Like all these dudes, it's like splitting hairs, and one of the hairs that I'm splitting with Curry that has him at 8 is because of health and how much I trust him to
Right.
stay consistently great throughout the whole time. So I got him at 8, but he scares me more than almost anyone on the list besides Jokic when if I had to go against him, like as a Celtics fan. So I got mad respect for Steph. So even though I have him that low, like he deserves to be higher if we're just talking about a playoff series or something. Number 7, I got Ant Man. So Ant Man, it took a leap for me because Ant Man was probably like, he was right around in the Booker Mitchell area for me, and I got Ant Man over them now because his shooting has gotten better,
Hmm.
playmaking has gotten slightly better, and I just think that he's more of a leader than those two, and he's just an alpha, and that matters. When it comes to playoffs, I trust him to be a killer. And I think that he wants to win so bad, and he's gonna make it sure that he's not like a loser. Like I think that he's gonna try to take this. Like if he walks into a series against Jokic, which he's done already, he's gonna try to be the best dude in that series. And I wouldn't put it past him to do it. And I've seen him go crazy like that. He would look better than Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, didn't he, in the
Yep.
playoffs? And so that's why I got him higher than Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. A lot of people wouldn't do that, but I just think that Ant's only getting better, and he gets better. Like in a couple months, he might even be better than he is now. And so I just hope that he takes that challenge. All right, so I got AD at number 6, and he's just he's a top 5 defender, and he's the best offensive player on the Lakers. He's been playing great on offense this year. And he's playing great. As long as he doesn't get hurt, he's a top 5 player, top 6 player. And I got him at 6 right now, so that seems about right because I got SGA above AD at 5. I got SJ a lot higher than you, mostly because I actually like SGA's defense a lot.
Hmm.
He's not like a lockdown defender, but for like a star guard compared to like a Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker or whatever, I like his defense better. Um, and his offense is great. He's pretty much unstoppable in the mid range, and he kind of the reason why he's 5 and not higher than that is because his playmaking is not as
They're
good
great.
as these other
Right.
players. I don't even think it's that much better than Tatum's. And Tatum's like a power forward, and I think that SGA is a good passer. He's kind of like a Donovan Mitchell might even be a little bit better passer than
Yeah,
him.
he's a better passer than to me.
Yes, like not like way better, but I just don't think SGA is like he doesn't. make any wild passes. He just makes like the good reads. He's kind of like a Dame Lillard level passer where he just
Right.
makes the right reads, but he's not going to do anything crazy. He's more looking for his own shot, that's cool. But that's the reason why SGA is not higher for me, because he's not like an elite playmaker. But as far as scoring and defense for a guard, he's probably the best in the league. I got Luka at 4. Luka, I talk mad shit about Luka, and I be baking and joking around a lot on Twitter or whatever. But at the end of the day, he's a top 5 player. He's
Right.
one, if not the best, besides Jokic, probably close to the best offensive player. But he cannot play off ball. He has to have the ball in his hands. So the team has to be built a certain way around him, and that's a notch against him for me, because like there's players that like I feel like Tatum or Giannis are more like you can fit them on more teams, or you could build different kind of teams around them. 'Cause like I said, we're splitting hairs when we're talking about the best
The
players.
top 5, right? Top 10.
Yes, and also the thing with Luka is that he may add so many points to your team, but he also subtracts points by how many points he gives up on defense, because
Right.
he's a cone, man. For me to even have him at 4 after that performance in the finals is kind of like that's how much respect I got for Luka, because if you just watch that finals, you wouldn't even have him at the top 10. Because to me, even though people try to say he was good in that finals, that's complete bullshit. He was good in one game in that finals, and the rest of those games he was pretty embarrassed. Like especially when Jalen was giving him the business, I feel like he kind of just wanted to take his ball and go home.
Right.
Um, so that's why I got him at 4. But he's still at 4. He still will kill you. And he could, at any given night, he's the best player in the world. But it's just, I don't know. There's certain things about him why I would pick other players over him to win the championship. Like I would pick Giannis, I would pick Tatum, and I would pick Jokic. Those are the 3 players I would take over Luka. Like if I wanted to win a championship this year, and those are the reasons why. But I also think that Luka on any given night, or if he gets his like, if he gets his momentum, like if he starts playing well, he could move up in the list. But he also
Right.
hasn't played well, and we haven't seen Luka play well in a long time, I feel like. So that kind of affects it too. I got Giannis at 3,
Okay.
and now I got Tatum at 2, and that's basically for 2 reasons. Giannis is taking a slight step back on defense. Giannis needs the ball in his hands. He's not good off ball. So he's more dominant as a scorer, but I think that playmaking goes to Tatum. But it's close. The playmaking is close, but Tatum, just to me, he sets up better passes. He has more potential assists. He's like more in tune with his team, and so where he knows where everybody's open at all times. And I think that Tatum finds his players a little quicker. And basically, Giannis, if you were saying I want a player to be like an MVP, Giannis has a better case to be maybe an MVP if they could start
Mm-hmm.
winning, because he has to do more for his team. But Tatum does everything on the court, and that's why I
Right.
got Tatum at 2, because he's good at everything. There's not a thing that he's not good at. He's off ball. He's great off ball. He moves off ball. He's great on ball. He can play point guard. He's a great facilitator. He forces a double because he's the best, most efficient ISO player in the league right now.
Right.
So you basically have to double him. So there's always going to be somebody open when you give him the ball in his spots. He's getting like I think 1.33 points per possession on every ISO. So you have to send a double at him. You saw what Steve Kerr was doing. Steve Kerr was not
Right.
playing with him,
No.
and it's because he's playing that good this year. So a lot of him being at number 2 is mostly because how he's been playing this year. So that's only been a 10-game sample size. So obviously I'm doing that. But also in the playoffs, when his shot wasn't dropping, he still was facilitating, getting to the basket, getting downhill, forcing double teams,
Mm-hmm.
playing defense, rebounding, everything. And that's the thing I like about Tatum is when his shot is off, he's still gonna affect the game in a multitude of different ways. But he's been shooting really good this year.
Right. Yeah. Especially
And
from 3.
also another thing that people don't realize, that they look at his numbers from the playoffs or the finals, and they say, "Oh, well, he only averaged like 22 points, and he only did this." Bro, all those games were blowouts. When you're in a blowout, you don't have to put up 40 points. You don't have to put up 35 points when you're in blowouts. So whether they lost that one blowout that they lost in game game 4, or the games that they won in blowouts. Once it's a blowout, there's no reason for him to start stat padding in the finals and trying to get 30, 35 points. So
Right.
people always try to throw his finals numbers at me. He wasn't efficient, but he still led the team to points, rebounds, and assists in the finals. So, and if it wasn't for Jaylen Brown doing what he did on defense to Luka, then he would have been the finals MVP. And I don't think it's a slight that Jaylen won the finals for MVP, because Jaylen Brown is a great player. He deserved it, but that's why I got Tatum at 2. But I know that you probably wouldn't agree with that, but if you watch Tatum every single night like me, and I watch all these other players, and I just think that he's just efficient at everything he does.
Arguably the best all around player in the league. So I mean, I understand why you said that.
And his
I
defense
don't
has looked a
agree.
lot better this year. Like, he's been more aggressive. He's like 3rd in the NBA in steals. He's got like 18 steals already. So yeah, he's doing everything. But like I said, it's all splitting hairs when you talk about like the top, besides Jokic, like the top 7 to 8 players.
Yeah.
It's splitting hairs, but we're just talking about who I would draft if I had to win the championship this year, and Tatum's the second dude I'm taking, and that's just how it is. And then Jokic is number 1, and that's all automatic because he's
But
the
he's
best
still.
player in the world.
Yep.
He's best player in the world, and the best passer in the league, best rebounder in the league, the most dominant player in the league. So that's Guapovic's top 25. We went a long time with
Yeah,
all
we
this,
did.
so we got a lot of shit for the listeners, and that's good. So we give more content for everybody to listen to.
Yes,
Um,
sir. Ball up top.
yeah, it's a ball up top, man. We love y'all.